the queen. Why you hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like King Luther, shed blood like Kusa. You ain't helping my people, I ain't got nothing to say to ya. I want all the smoke like hookah. Talking reparations, America won't be great until they give us compensation. I'm like, I'm the hottest right now. See a bunch of lames out here trying to jock on my style. They be doing too much. I'm the queen, it's too easy. It's like they all in Popeyes, how they be talking so greasy. I just sit back and laugh while these haters get mad. So nefarious how they don't want my pockets with cheddar. I tell them they can do better. These snakes in the grass can leave a bite on your ass, cause y'all be trusting too fast. I got my foot on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regret, we only facing the threat.
This is the sound of every
It's a cut on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threat. Running through every challenge like a relay, break no sweat. It's a cold game, so I got that blanket with me. Now that my people awaken, ain't no going to sleep. I do not play by my piece, this time I'm playing for keeps. You talking straight, but when I see you like them ends, we gon' meet. And I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine, you done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans, and I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine, you done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me?
All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the original Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur show. I'm your host, Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur, and this is your morning wake-up call. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. Okay, so hello, Anita Harrell, Claudette, Lillian X, March Baby is here, Khalid Harleem is in the house, Desmond. All right, let's get into it. All right, Dangerous is here, Jasmine Virgo, Deronda. All right, so everybody be sure to hit that like button. Also, if you have not been receiving your notifications, please do double check to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. Sometimes people surprisingly become unsubscribed. All right, Needed and Mike's where a male is in the house, Alberta. Okay, so let's have a brief word from my sponsor and then we'll get into it. I see you, Charlotte. All right, lovely T.
Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
Okay, so don't forget you can purchase 12 Tribes hair oil at Etsy.com. Just look for Lisa Crass, and you can also find it at Walmart.com. Now, with that all being said, she also has beard oil for men. Okay, so let's get into it, honey. Let's get into it. Now, the left and right seem to be ready for war. I mean, they're all going back and forth at it. I told you how the right is trying to blame the death of Charlie Kirk on the left, claiming that they said such things about them or whatever, that this is what radicalizes people, but not their own actions. Now, let me say this. Last night when I went live, I had a couple of videos I intended to show you guys, and I do believe that I got sidetracked. So we're going to play those now. Now, one of these videos is Little Miss Jasmine Crockett speaking on the Breakfast Club about how the right is trying to blame Black folk for what happened to Charlie Kirk and the HBCUs and all of that. And the other one is a woman getting fired from her job on her live Okay, she's recording herself and she's getting fired from her job for some comments that she made about Charlie Kirk. Okay, so let's get into it.
Because the school system got me fucked up. So Oklahoma is forcing the kids to have a moment of silence for Charlie Kirk. This is what the fuck they sent out to the parents. In light of this recent tragedy, Oklahoma schools will join together to honor the memory of Charlie Kirk, who engaged high school and college students to talk about American exceptionalism. So they said he challenged students to think for themselves, value free speech.
Okay, I forgot I have that video on there, so I'm gonna play that in a minute because you know how ScrewTube, you shouldn't have all that cursing until after at least 8 minutes of the video. So I'll put that back up. But that young lady, I forgot that I had her on there. She's going off because she says the Oklahoma schools sent home a letter basically saying that they're going to have a moment of silence, and she's upset about it. And a lot of the Black people said they were not going to send their children to school on that day. Okay, so I'll play that in a minute, but let's go to this one where the lady says she got fired just so we can make sure the 8 minutes has lapsed, and then I'll play the other one.
I just got fired. Can't have you.
You said I have to leave the premises like immediately? Okay. So, guess I'll see you guys later. I'm fired. You guys take care. Good luck, okay? Kind of relief. You guys have a good one.
Oh man, I feel good. I just got fired. And honestly, when they told me, I was like a little like, eh. But then after, I was like, fuck this. They're back there having their little chat together. The guy that let me go was trying to block me from saying goodbye to my coworkers right now. Like, he was like guarding them or something. And then that's when I was like, okay, bye. Goodbye, guys. I'll see you later. They let me go. They fired me. He looked all disappointed. But honestly, dude, I feel relieved. I feel very relieved. I mean, I'm going to be fucked if I'm not going to get unemployment, but fuck it, dude. As they were like having me sign my forms and shit and like terminating me. Wait, let me say goodbye to my friend Michael. Hi, Michael. I'm done. Yeah, so it is what it is. But I think the relief that I'm feeling is a good sign because I did not want to do my shift today anyways. Like, I had a bunch of number one lessons, and that's dealing with first timers, so fuck it, dude, I'm feeling good. I'm also shaking a little bit because I'm in shock, but whatever, dude, it is what it is. I'm gonna do me. Yeah, they were trying to be all nice about it and stuff, and professional, and they were like, you can keep the sweater and all the shirt and whatever, it's all yours. I was like, what the fuck do I need this shit for? But whatever, I'm free, dude. I'm free. And I think I'm just gonna start trying to do more of the things that I want to do and not worry about any other one else. That's one of my coworkers driving in the car, my ex-coworkers. He was pretty cool too. He would always like be like upfront and like just tell me how fucking draining the job was, and me and him were just both.
Okay, now you're just babbling and rambling. Girl, nobody has time for that. Listen, she's talking about she's free. Like she was glad she got fired. Girl, no, you're not. That's why you're literally doing this video. And also, if you didn't want the job, you wouldn't have gone to work. This is absolutely nefarious that they're firing people from their jobs for freedom of speech. Like, we have no rights in this country. This is all crazy. Okay, I'm not laughing at the lady because she lost her job, because clearly that's not funny. But she's just trying to play it off. That's what I'm laughing at. She's acting like she really doesn't care, but she's probably so stressed out deep down inside. At the end of the day, do y'all see how they're doing these people? It's all so nefarious and such a shame. Now let's go to this other video where the young lady, like I said, she's ranting because the kids are going to have to go through this little moment of silence that clearly she doesn't want to do. And so, and then Jasmine Crockett on the Breakfast Club. Okay, here we go.
because the school system got me fucked up. So Oklahoma is forcing the kids to have a moment of silence for Charlie Kirk. This is what the fuck they sent out to the parents. In light of this recent tragedy, Oklahoma schools will join together to honor the memory of Charlie Kirk, who engaged high school and college students to talk about American exceptionalism. So they said he challenged students to think for themselves, value free speech, and engage in meaningful debate. I'm skipping a couple words. Tomorrow at 12 p.m., September 16th, our schools will hold a moment of silence and reflect on his legacy. We invite parents, families, and Oklahomans everywhere to join us from wherever you are and unite in remembrance. Why does my children in elementary school who don't know nothing about somebody being shot or assassinated need to have a moment of silence? This man said if a little girl's essay, she should not be able to have an abortion. Why is my daughter having a moment of silence for him? Like whoever the board of education is, he's trying to use this to incite anger and riot, because a lot of people not fucking with this. If you want to have a moment of silence and do a whole memorial service, do that at home. But don't force that shit up on other people, because you don't know what people believe in their religions, and he didn't disrespect the cultures, he didn't disrespect the beliefs, and you're gonna force these kids to have a moment of silence for them. So people are keeping their kids at home tomorrow.
First of all, black people ain't had nothing to do with this. We wasn't nowhere near Utah. So I'm like, how was the response to go after black students? And it's interesting because I was talking to one of my best friends who graduated from Grambling. And I was like, is Grambling on lockdown? Because, it was just kind of, in the moment. And it's like we're getting these alerts about this school and that school, Hampton, and all these different schools. So I was like, what is happening? And I was like, and why are we in this, right? What is it that students on a HBCU campus have to do with this, right? That wasn't a place that... let me point this out. We have had school shootings that have taken place on all types of campuses. And there are those, specifically on the right, that always want to put out this idea that black folk are dangerous and criminal, and we just have more of a propensity to commit crimes and things like that. Do you know how many school shootings we've had at a HBCU?
Zero.
One of the safest campus that you can be, a safe haven. And it is interesting because those campuses were created out of kind of the segregation idea, but we don't do that. It's not, in the idea that, as soon as it happened and the next thing you know, the trans community is under attack again, right? Because they said that the Minnesota shooting was a trans woman, I believe. And so because it was a trans person, they're like, oh, this is what happens. But I was like, so we're not going to talk about white supremacy? We're not going to talk about the fact that the vast majority of these shootings, whether they are seen as political or not, if we look at the numbers, white supremacy ideology. But we don't want to do anything about that. There's no legislation that they want to bring. Every time you say white supremacy, they want to yell, oh, you're race baiting. No, I am going on facts. These crimes, when we look at these mass shootings, most of them are linked to neo-Nazism or, Proud Boys or whatever. It's always some white supremacy kind of thing that's going on. It's not black folk that are going out there. It's not immigrants that are going out there. But what cities are we going into? Black cities, because we are supposedly the ones that commit all the crime. Which people are we going after? Immigrants, because allegedly it's immigrants, but we don't want to have a talk about what the numbers say, what the facts say, which is that we have a white supremacy problem in this country. So until we decide to deal with the problem, we're going to continue to have a problem.
For a hair, nails, feet, she did the finger thumb type and said, Glock it.
All right, so I have to agree with her on that. They always want to try to pull us into their mess when we don't have anything to do with it. Okay? Now, so let's get into this, because I told you all the other day that they have been trying to compare this man, Charlie Kirk, to Dr. King. And so Glenn Beck comes out. Let's get into that, because Glenn Beck comes out and basically he wants them to have a whole street for him. He wants them to have a street named after him, just like they have a street named after Dr. King, y'all. This is what it said. Glenn Beck compares Charlie Kirk to Dr. King and wants streets named after him. Not just one, but multiple streets. Let's talk about it. Conservative media personality Glenn Beck is calling on cities to name streets after Charlie Kirk, the conservative activist who was shot and killed in Utah last week. He said, we must stop calling Charlie anything other than a civil rights leader. Ha! We need to plant that stake deep. He said Kirk was not doing politics, but standing up for civil rights. He said, make no mistake, Charlie Kirk was a civil rights leader as much as Martin Luther King. I'm waiting to see the first city that will make a Charlie Kirk Boulevard. He specifically called on Phoenix, where Kirk's Turning Point USA headquarters is located, to be the first, saying there's a Martin Luther King Boulevard. There should be a Charlie Kirk Boulevard. He also said that other so-called civil rights leaders of the past few decades are jokes and money hustlers. He must have been talking about old Al Sharpton. He said King was a true civil rights leader, along with Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and President John F. Kennedy. And he placed Kirk in that company, added that he was martyred in the cause of civil rights. Charlie Kirk died standing up and trying to show people how to exercise your civil rights in a civilized manner, and they gunned him down because of it. Y'all hear that? Do y'all hear that? I am done. Listen, let's go to it, honey. I'm going to share it on the screen. Matter of fact, I'm not going to go to that. I'm going to go to this other video on the Glenn Beck program, where there's a guy who said that he was right there when Charlie Kirk got shot and killed. And he basically, yeah, I think I will go ahead and show his behind. I'm going to put an overlay on here. And he basically also thinks that he's a civil rights activist. Let me tell y'all something. You know what this just shows to me? That these people are so desperate. Some of them are so desperate to try to have a hero, okay, a real hero like we do. And I was watching somebody on TikTok last night. They were doing a live and they were talking about Charlie Kirk and this whole situation that's going on right now. And I saw somebody who doesn't look like me put in the chat saying that Black people don't have any role models. We don't have any true role models. And I just laughed to myself because I'm thinking, you're talking about yourself. That's projection. Because we have Dr. King, okay, Malcolm, I'm sorry, what? Marcus Garvey, Frederick Douglass. We have many. What is he talking about? And I just thought that was interesting because the people that they tend to praise and hold in high regard, those people were, into genocide, slavery, inhumane practices. Okay, great. All right, please. That's what those people like George Washington, okay, General Robert E. Lee. Ha! Leopold II. All of these people were murderous maniacs, okay, and slave owners. All right? Doesn't have anybody that has any, moral fortitude that they can talk about as being a hero. Think of it. Name one person they can. They cannot. Okay? So they want to put Charlie up there, with the, well, you know what? Let me take that back. We could say JFK. We could say they have JFK, but it seems like they don't ever talk about him. It seems like they don't hold him in high regard. Do they even have any JFK statues anywhere? I think I saw a bust of him somewhere, but do they have anywhere where they've memorialized him? Alberta said, enough is enough. Queen, I'm knighting you as queen of media talk shows. Thank you, beloved. I appreciate you. But so I just want to make it all make sense. So now let's listen to what he says. I'm going to put an overlay on this because I don't want any copyright claims, honey. And let's hear him say it for himself.
Charlie anything other than a civil rights leader. We need to plant that stake deep. It is time that we point out that what he was doing was not politics, What he was doing was trying to stand up for people's civil rights, to show people how a civilization is not a civilization unless you can have a dialogue with people who are diametrically opposed to you.
This is very interesting how they're trying to equate him to Dr. King also. Dr. King led protest. Dr. King was, attacked, sprayed with water hoses, arrested, beaten, spat on, all these things. Charlie Kirk didn't go through any of that. Like, dude, sit down somewhere. He didn't lead protests. He didn't take his people to Washington. He didn't do any of that.
That don't believe anything that you believe in. And yet you can have a civil dialogue, and how important that is. That's our civil right, our right to free speech. And that gunman was trying to take that right away from him and from you and everyone else. Shut up. You will be silenced. You will not say those things. And there has been a force in this country to try to convince people that you don't have a right, that you have a responsibility to silence others. You don't.
And it's interesting that he's saying all of this because that's exactly what the right is now trying to do. That is exactly what the right is now trying to do, trying to silence people, getting people fired, okay? Trying to demote people, trying to hold people accountable for things they said that were simply their opinion.
In this country, one of our main civil rights is we can express ourselves the way we feel we need to express ourselves. And I'm sorry, if you don't like it, you have to just take it and then say, I'd like to have a discussion with you on that. I'd like to know how you got there. I'd like to have the opportunity to argue against that. And you have that right to argue against it. And hopefully, if we are more like Charlie Kirk, we're having those dialogues with each other in a civilized fashion. But make no mistake, Charlie Kirk was a civil rights leader as much as Martin Luther King. I'm waiting to see the first city that will make a Charlie Kirk boulevard. Phoenix, you should be the one. There's a Martin Luther King boulevard. There should be a Charlie Kirk boulevard. Charlie Kirk was a civil rights leader, and we must take that for him and own that, because all of these so-called civil rights leaders, Black Lives Matter, that was a money scam. That had nothing to do with anything other than money and power. Charlie was actually fighting for civil rights.
Was he? Because that's news to me. That is complete and utter news to me, sir. Okay, he really needs to sit down somewhere, but hold on. Hold on. Now, here's another video. Lord have mercy, honey. Some people just are, I don't know what to say about them. Let me go to this video right here because somebody calls into his show and they're talking about they were actually there when the incident took place. And they said they literally had basically a bird's eye view. They were up close and they actually saw it.
And then he sealed that testimony in his blood. And people need to know, that was his very last stand was with God. And there was hell unleashed before my eyes, and it was insane. But we need to know that there was also the Spirit, and God is with us, and God can be with us and turn this into a movement to change our country and to eradicate these evils. We need to turn to Christ now and to pray, because prayer works. The only thing that was able to calm me down, and my friend who was there, we just prayed.
I know. Brian, thank you so much. You're right on. And I think that is the turning point. I really do. I think, what a way to go. I mean, I don't mean to be, you understand, we're adults here. We can talk about this. But is there a better way to go than talking about how much you believe in Jesus Christ and giving your testimony and then someone taking your life? I mean, that's a martyr.
Do you hear how he's trying to push this narrative that's completely false? He was not, I repeat, he was not talking about Jesus Christ and giving his life when he died. He was talking about gang violence. Dude, you're making this all up. Are you all listening? Do y'all hear this? Do you all hear this? Ha! I am so sorry, but sir, he was not talking about Jesus. Someone had literally asked him. Now, can you all imagine the lies that they would be telling if we did not have this on tape? Can you all imagine the lies and BS that they would be spewing? The narratives they would be trying to paint had this not all been captured on video. Senator talking about, he was talking about Jesus and his life and how he was. Oh my goodness. J Love the Queen said he was talking about gang violence before he died. Exactly. Trying to blame it on Black people. When the guy asked him about the mass shootings, he said, what about gang violence? He was trying to, oh my goodness. Let's just keep listening.
By the way, we must stop calling Charlie anything other than a civil rights leader. We need to plant that stake deep. It is time.
I absolutely cannot, family, I absolutely cannot. That man is too much. Okay, now with that all being said, hold on, because I just want you to pay attention because it gets a whole lot worse. It gets a whole lot worse. Hold on here. Let me pull this up. Oh my goodness. This is hilarious. But like I said, it's more of his own people saying things about him than people who look like me. That's for sure.
People are completely detached from reality. Glenn Beck said that Charlie Kirk was just as much of a civil rights leader as Martin Luther King Jr. Take a look at this.
Make no mistake, Charlie Kirk was a civil rights leader as much as Martin Luther King. I'm waiting to see the first city that will make a Charlie Kirk boulevard. Phoenix, you should be the one.
Then he went on to say, if there's a Martin Luther King Boulevard, we need to have a Charlie Kirk Boulevard too. Yes, Charlie Kirk did tragically lose his life, but we need to be honest here about the messaging of these two men and what they stood for. Martin Luther King Jr.'s message was centered around unity, equality, and nonviolence. He fought for the rights of the oppressed, and he brought people together across divides. He dreamed of a world where children would be judged based on the content of their character and not the color of their skin. He gave his life fighting for freedom and justice. And Charlie Kirk, on the other hand, built his career on the polar opposite. He wasn't about unity. He was all about division and spreading hate. He didn't care about equality at all. He leaned into racism, fear, and resentment. His platform thrived on demonizing immigrants, mocking marginalized groups, and driving wedges between Americans. To compare what Charlie Kirk did to Martin Luther King Jr. is not just wrong, it is insulting. It's a desperate attempt to rewrite history and disrespect the sacrifice of actual civil rights leaders. We can acknowledge that Charlie Kirk's unaliving was horrific and wrong, but that doesn't mean we have to accept this. Luther people like
let me tell you all something. I agree with everything that young man said. Okay. And I like him too. He's always given very good commentary on TikTok. Here's the thing. And it is up to people like him to keep telling the truth, so the lies won't stick. Because if you listen to what Glenn Beck said, he was very specific. He said, we need to drive this in like a stake deep. Isn't that what he's saying? That means he's saying that they've got to make it stick. We've got to make this story stick. We've got to make this go down in history. So they write about Charlie Kirk in books and teach about him in schools, just like they do Dr. King. Glenn Beck, please sit down somewhere. But let's continue because I want y'all to hear this, because we're going to go to some of the words that Charlie Kirk said about Dr. King, the man that they dare to compare him to. I find it also interesting.
King show. But I can say declaratively, this guy is not worthy of a national holiday. He is not worthy of godlike status. In fact, I think it's really harmful. Kirk describes King as, quote, a bad guy. It's true. And Kirk self-described very, very radical view that the country made a mistake when it passed the Civil Rights Act. Also true. Once a week, we talk about why the Civil Rights Act was a mistake.
So if you had a daughter and she was 10 and she got raped and she was going to give birth and she would, and she was going to give birth and she was going to live, would you want her to go through that and carry her baby?
That's awfully graphic.
But it's a real life scenario that happens to many people.
The answer is yes, the baby would be delivered.
We're trying to get the officer who murdered George Floyd pardoned, and I just want to know what your reasoning was about that.
Well, George Floyd didn't die because of the police officer. He died largely because of a drug overdose.
But he had his knee on his neck. We all saw the video.
We're going to remove my appendix and you're a black lesbian. See a black pilot, you wonder, you say, I hope they are qualified. If I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. I'm dealing with somebody in customer service who's a moronic black woman. I wonder, is she there because of her excellence?
Now, why did he have to say a moronic black woman? Why couldn't he just say a black woman? You see how he was very insulting to black people, okay? But people want to say he wasn't a racist. Of course he was.
Or is she there because of affirmative action? Thomas Sowell and Justice Clarence Thomas are far better black role models to celebrate than Martin Luther King, period. End of story. This guy is not worthy of a national holiday. He is not worthy of godlike status. In fact, I think it's really harmful.
Wait a minute, who did he say? Who did he say? Did he just say Thomas Jefferson? Hold on, let me roll that back because I missed it. Hold on.
Period. End of story. This guy is not worthy of a national holiday. He is not worthy of godlike status. In fact, I think it's really harmful. You do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously. You had to go steal a white person's slot to go be taken somewhat seriously. Play cut 52. Shows they were actually better in the 1940s. It was bad. It was evil. But what happened? Something changed. They committed less crimes.
Maybe they were afraid. I mean, 4,000 black men, women, and children were killed in violent lynch mobs.
That's your explanation. But
racial terror permeated American culture for hundreds of years.
Black America is worse than it has been
that affected
in the last 80 years.
The general
is in Leviticus 18 is that thou shalt lay with another man shall be stoned to death. Just saying. So, Miss Rachel, you quote Leviticus 19, love your neighbor as yourself. The chapter before affirms God's perfect law when it comes to sexual matters. The first part is absolutely true. Let's go to this. Jewish communities have been pushing the exact kind of hatred against whites that they claim to want people to stop using against them. Now, Jewish donors, they have a lot of explaining to do, a lot of decoupling to do, because Jewish donors have been the number one funding mechanism of radical, open border, neoliberal, quasi-Marxist to be able to build support for Israel. I don't think the place exists.
What?
Because it doesn't. It's called Judea and Samaria. It's not called Palestine.
You don't believe that Palestine have the right to exist?
No, everyone has a right to exist. Show me where it is. It's a non-existent place.
I'm a gay conservative, and I just want to ask you, what do you have to say for people like me who kind of feel like, I guess, it's kind of hard for gay conservatives because there's not a lot of us. So, like, what do you have to say to other gay people who need to realize, like, they do have a choice?
Is what you do in the bedroom. It doesn't mean that much to me, but if you ask from a perspective as a Christian, I don't agree with that lifestyle. But one issue I think that is so against our senses, so against the natural law, and dare I say, a throbbing middle finger to God, is the transgender thing happening in America right now. And why is he still in jail? Why has he not been bailed out? By the way, if some amazing patriot out there in San Francisco or the Bay Area wants to really be a midterm hero, someone should go and bail this guy out. I bet this. We're a truth-seeking show, but I can say declare.
Now, you all heard that. So he literally said that Dr. King was not worthy of a national holiday. Okay, he did not like Dr. King. So why in the hell are they comparing this man to Dr. King, someone he didn't even like? But here is more of him talking. This is when he was on Jason Whitlock, or shall I say Jason Hamhock Whitlock's show.
One person in the 20th century that gets a federal holiday, and it's Martin Luther King. I can name at least a dozen people more deserving in the 20th century of a federal holiday than MLK. There are much better figures, such as Billy Graham in the 1960s, who had a lot more to do with the passage of the Civil Rights Act, who gets no credit than Martin Luther King. People forget Billy Graham had White House Oval Office meetings. Billy Graham led the Crusades for a moral awakening. What I'm trying to counter is the reason we talk about race so much is because we have a federal holiday to a guy that talked about race all the time. We celebrate.
So I just want to start this off by saying
just want to give a shout out to Billy Graham. He was an amazing person, an amazing figure in the civil rights movement. In a time where white people were doing fuck all to help out, there were a handful of people who genuinely did, and Billy Graham is one of them. So thank you, Billy Graham. But in what fucking world does Billy Graham deserve a national holiday above Martin Luther King? Billy Graham did help out in the civil rights movement. Don't get me wrong. But he participated in 0 of the marches, 0 of the rallies. He wasn't beaten for the movement. He wasn't arrested for the movement. And he wasn't killed for the movement. Martin Luther King was at every single march, every rally. He was arrested repeatedly. He was beaten repeatedly. And he was literally fucking shot in the face for the movement. So in what fucking world does Billy Graham deserve a holiday above Martin Luther King? He didn't face the outright danger that Martin Luther King did. He didn't face the pressure and backlash that he did. He did not have to go out and fight the same battles that Martin Luther King did. The hurdles that Martin Luther King had to jump through to live his everyday life and to get through the civil rights movement was easily a lot harder than what the fuck Billy Graham went through. So to even sit here and pretend that Billy Graham deserves a holiday above Martin Luther King is so fucking crazy. Like, why would you even make that point? Like, someone please tell me why. Like what is the reason for like this talking point? Like, why would you feel the need to tear down Martin Luther King and then prop up Billy Graham as a more deserving person in the civil rights movement? Billy Graham himself said he regrets not going to the marches and rallies because he could have done more. So how the, you know what? I can't.
Okay. I mean, make it make sense. The reason that he would do that is because he felt like, in many cases, he felt like white people were more deserving than Black people. That's just how he felt. And I'm sorry, but that's absolutely racist. Now, let's go to what Dr. Bernice King said about Charlie Kirk's passing. And she, even though she knows that man talked greasy about her father, even though she said that she was tired of people comparing him to her father and people quoting her father after they're the ones that had him killed, she still said something nice about him after his death. So let's get into it. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance.
And I just want to take to send our prayers to Charlie Kirk and his family in this hour. And my greatest prayer has been for years that we as a nation and world to find a way to deal with and address our differences, as my father taught us, in a more nonviolent way. And that's why the work that we have been doing at the King Center is so important, because we educate and train people on my father's philosophy and methodology of nonviolence. And I think if more and more of us learned it, we wouldn't see days like today. And so we just continue to do the work and we pray. We admire Father. You have to pray and do the work. And we know that we will get to another moment.
Right. Now you can tell she clearly has the spirit of her father, honey, because I wouldn't have gotten up there and said anything, especially after hearing such things said about my father. Okay, so now with that all being said, here's the thing. I want you all to listen to this, because this is Charlie Kirk on a campus speaking with some young people. And this one young Black lady, when I tell you she cooked his goose, let's get into it. Okay, let's get into it. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance.
At United Airlines was that we want to get 40% of our pilots to be Black or women of color, or women or people of color.
40%.
50. I'm sorry, to get up to 50.
Hi, Charlie. Yeah, you're going to have to lower that one for me.
What's your name again?
Thank you. Naima, how are you
Naima,
doing?
it's been a while.
It's been a minute. How have you been?
Great.
That's
We won.
fantastic. You did do that. I mean, you didn't, but Trump did. Yes.
The collective we, yeah.
Yes, the collective we. So speaking of Trump, I do want to talk a little bit about his policy on DEI. As you know, in his first weeks in office, he signed the executive order declaring that DEI is both unlawful and a threat to national unity. And I just kind of want to ask you to elaborate on why DEI is unlawful.
Well, based on the Civil Rights Act, which I have disagreements with, but based on the Civil Rights Act, which is the law of the land, it says you shall not discriminate based on color, race, creed, or origin of nationality.
Yes.
And DEI definitionally does those things.
How does it definitionally do those things?
So, for example, if you say you are going to hire a certain amount of people or have scholarships only for a certain people, you are then prejudicing against another group.
Which group are you prejudicing
So
against?
white people, Asians as well. I mean, white people are an easy one off the top of your head. So, for example, in the Harvard admissions case, I said this earlier, the average test score for a black individual was around 1,300 SAT, about 3.2 GPA. For a white or Asian, it would be about a 3.9 to 4 GPA and about nearly a perfect SAT. So you are disenfranchising and stereotyping and prejudicing against whites or Asians in favor of blacks.
You're not prejudicing against whites or Asians, though, because DEI is not on a race basis. DEI stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion of all people. Affirmative action is what is intended to address racial inequality, but DEI isn't on the basis of race.
Well, so DEI is a project of the affirmative action movement. So one comes before the other. He signed an executive order against both, for the record. So I wasn't sure which one you were talking about.
I'm talking about DEI.
So DEI, it depends what we mean in practice. So I can give you one example. There are black-only graduation ceremonies at certain schools or black-only dormitories.
But those are kind of student-led. I'm part of a black-only
let's play this out.
organization, and
So
it's run by students. It's not
fair
through
enough.
the school.
Let's play it out. So if there is a black-only, let's pretend, which it's not, that building is black-only. If I said that, if that building was
I'm
white,
like, the campus
no, I said, let's
okay.
pretend it's
yes,
not.
hypothetically, yes.
Hypothetically, if that building was white only, you would agree that's a violation of the Civil Rights Act.
Yes, but there
Hold
are
on,
no buildings on campus that are black only and white only.
Well,
And by the way,
but there are on other campuses.
No,
though.
but in those dormitories that are like culturally specific, you don't have to be that culture to live there. They're not going to not allow you to be black to live in a black dormitory.
You would
no,
be
Ujamaa at
surprised.
Stanford. White people do live at Ujamaa. That's not.
Let me tell you all something, beloveds. Here's the thing. Charlie Kirk, right now in this moment, he is making a straw argument because the fact of the matter is at the campuses where they have a black-only dorm, white people, Mexicans, Latinos, whoever can live in those dorms. And Charlie Kirk knows that. He's not stupid, or he wasn't stupid. He knew that. Other people could live there. When you think about HBCUs, historically black colleges, don't other races go there? Don't other races go there? Of course they do. And you know what doesn't happen when they go there? They don't get discriminated against. There's not hate crimes committed against them. People are not calling them nasty slurs. That's what doesn't happen. But those things do happen to some black people on those other campuses, like the guy found hanging the other day at Delta State University. So please pay attention. Okay, at the end of the day, he's making a nonsensical argument, which is something that Charlie Kirk always did, in my opinion. He would be so good, as I've told you before, at picking out the negative things in the black community, but overlooking the negative things in his own community. And then pay attention to how when she caught him up and she let him know that he was wrong in his explanation, then about DEI, and then she said it's for diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's not just for black people. And then he tried to flip it, the script, and say, oh, well, I didn't know which part you were talking about. But he's lying. If you didn't know what part she was talking about, you could have asked before you answered. And you see, that's why he doesn't like the civil rights movement, because that's when they came up with affirmative action. Okay? And he feels like this whole thing, DEI, was something that took away jobs from white people, and that you may not have been qualified. You only got hired because of DEI. Also, those stats that he gave about the people entering Harvard, talking about the scores on the SATs for the blacks, the white people, and the Asians. He's lying. Those stats that he gave are incorrect. And that's another thing. He would constantly lie about statistics. If anybody bothered to fact check him, they would have known that. But nobody did. Because a lot of people, when they hear people talking about numbers and spewing statistics and all that and percentages, they just listen. They don't go and double check and fact check. And y'all know that I do that all the time. I always fact check because I don't trust anyone's research but my own. And so a lot of that stuff, he was not even telling the truth. And I know that he knows that because just like I played the video of the young white teenager who was probably about 15 to 16, and he was explaining all of the disparaging things that happen in the United States to Black people and why we do deserve reparations. If he was a teenager and could understand and comprehend that and explain it so thoroughly, you think Charlie Kirk couldn't understand that as well? Of course he did. And that's why many people who look like me feel like he was racist. Because did he ever speak on the negative aspects of white men? Someone asked that in the chat. I don't think that he ever did. If he did, I missed it. And when people would ask him about negative aspects of white people collectively, he would always flip the script. That's why the day that he got killed, when that guy said something about the mass shootings, and we all know from reports and everything else that the main people that are mass shooters are white men between the ages of 18 to around 35. And so when they asked him about mass shooters, he quickly brought up gang violence because he knows that most of the gang violence comes from Black men. So, and Black teenagers, just like the mass shooters also can be white teenagers sometimes. So, that's what he would do. He would always flip the script and try to place the blame on the people who look like me rather than calling out the wrongs on their side as well. And if he had done that, then I don't think people would have been so quick to be saying or feeling that he was racist. If he just talked about both sides, but you're just sitting there pointing the finger of blame and shame at one group of people and then acting like you were being disparaged in some way or, oppressed in some way because these people got affirmative action, because these people got DEI. First of all, DEI more so helped white women than Black women. Also gay men more so than Black men. Okay? I don't know why everybody seems to think, or so many people seem to think that DEI only helped Black people to get jobs, because it wasn't just Black people. It helped immigrants, it helped white women as well, and gay men. And that's because those people are also marginalized communities. Because we know that for decades, women weren't allowed to be treated equally in the work sector. We know that people discriminated against gay men. They discriminate against minorities, whether you were Black or a foreigner, immigrant or whatever. So it benefits all of those groups of people who have been marginalized, not just Black people. And here's another thing. When Charlie Kirk talks about someone not being qualified for a job they've been given simply because of DEI hiring, one thing about it is this: even if you were hired through DEI, you still had to meet the qualifications to get that job. You still had to meet it. And here's another thing I want to point out too, because I heard a video one day where Charlie Kirk was talking about the same thing about the DEI and saying how it wasn't fair and how people were taking white people's jobs. This is what Charlie Kirk never spoke about. So let me break it down for you. And I know he had to have known this because he was smart. Okay, now he was not dumb at all. So I know that he had to have known this. Here is the thing. Even though, because this is how Charlie explained it when I heard that video, he was talking about how, when you give somebody, hire someone through DEI, and you just do so because they're Black. And then he brought up that lady, that congresswoman that time, I can't remember her name, but he brought up that congresswoman who said that she was a DEI hire. She did say that, but she said that helped her get hired. But she also said that she was qualified. She also said she was qualified, and she was. And here's the thing. So he would say that, that stops people like an Asian or a white person from getting a job because you're just getting hired just because you're Black. But what he doesn't seem to ever have spoken on is the fact that before DEI, before they ever had affirmative action, right? White people could get jobs that they were not qualified for just because they were white. The only difference is there was no policy or no civil rights movement for them to be able to do so. That's why we needed a civil rights movement. So let me say this to you. When Charlie Kirk would say that he didn't like the civil rights movement, that he felt like it was dangerous or like a group of people were being discriminated against, i.e. his people, when he says that, what he really was saying was that we should not have been given anything to try to catch up with them. That we didn't need to have anything handed to us just because we were whining about unfair practices and unequal treatment. That's what I heard every time he said that. That's what I heard every time he said that. The bottom line is there have been plenty of jobs where white people were given the job over a qualified Black person who was more qualified, more educated, had more experience simply because they were white. And that's why they created DEI, so that other groups of people who have been marginalized and left out of the loop, overlooked, bypassed, swept under the rug, resumes thrown in the trash, would be able to get jobs. So now, while he wants to make the arguments that Black people being DEI hires took away jobs from white people, well, what about all the jobs that white people took away from Black people who were clearly more educated and qualified than them? What about that? And I myself have seen this happen. I myself have seen this happen with my own eyes. Okay? With my very own eyes, I have seen it happen. All right? When I was in college, there was a Black professor named Dr. Davis. Dr. Davis had a master's degree. She was a regular professor, but there was a white woman who was the program director over the nursing students. This woman didn't even have a college degree, come to find out. All she had was a GED. Now, I'm not throwing shade on anybody with a GED. I'm just saying that at the end of the day, she was not qualified for that position. She only got that position because she was white and because she was friends with the director of education who was working there. How do I know this? Because I was working for him. After classes, I was doing like a work study for him, and I heard all the conversations. So let me tell you what I heard one day. They were having the auditors come to the college to make sure that they were nationally accredited and regionally accredited. So when they came, when they found this out, they got concerned because they knew that the lady that was in charge of the nursing department, the program director, I can't remember her name, but the white lady that only had the GED, they knew that she didn't have the right qualifications and that the auditors were going to find out because they're going to be asking to see the paperwork and proof and all of this. And so they panicked. And so then they went to the Black teacher, Miss Davis, Professor Davis, the same lady, mind you, this is the part I left out. Professor Davis actually had applied for that position because that position paid more than her job. And so when she applied for it, they didn't give it to her. Mind you, this lady had a master's degree. They didn't give it to her. All you needed for that position was a bachelor's degree, by the way. So she was more than qualified, but they gave it to the white lady with a GED. So now when the auditors are coming and they're scrambling and scraping and need to find out what they're going to do, and they go to Miss Davis and they say to her, can you pretend? I literally heard them say this. Can you pretend to be the program director for the nursing department when the auditors get here? Because Miss So-and-so, she unfortunately doesn't have her paperwork to prove that she's has the credentials to hold that position, and we don't want to not get our accreditation because they actually didn't have the accreditation. This is why I transferred from that school, because I heard the conversation, and I had been there for like maybe 2 quarters or two semesters. So isn't that crazy? And you know what the Black professor told them? She told them, no, you made your choice, now own it. That's what she told him. She said, you made your choice, now own it. I don't know what they did, if they got the accreditation or not, because after hearing that conversation, I went to my program director for the Criminal Justice Department, which I was in, and I spoke to her, Miss Sandra Kraft, and I told her what was going on and what I had heard. And me and her, we both transferred. She applied for a job at another college, and she became the criminal justice chairperson at that school. And then she told me to come to that school as well. And I told her, well, what about some of my credits if they don't all transfer over? She said, don't worry, I'll make sure they do. So me and her went to another whole college. And so, but I'm just telling you, I said all that to say, he was worried about a Black person taking a white person's job when that was the history of the United States before there was anything like affirmative action to help make sure that other people who were marginalized got jobs too and got a fair chance. Somebody's got to win and somebody's got to lose in everything you do. That's how that goes. That's how that goes. But Charlie only wanted his people to win. He only wanted people who looked like him to win. That's what I heard when he was talking. That's what I heard when he was talking. And that was my problem with Charlie Kirk. Now let's continue.
I don't know about that specific example, but if it says Black only dormitory,
But it doesn't say Black only.
but okay, how about this? How about if we had? Well, it does.
It
But
doesn't. Where does it say that?
Just to be clear, well, in the title, but let's
No,
pretend
but
it says
where?
Black.
Like what school? Where does it say Black only building?
Eastern Washington University, Portland State University, just off the top of my head, San Jose State University.
They say Black only dormitory? And if a white person were to apply to live there?
It's a Black affinity
they would
cultural
not-
space of which only Black individuals are accepted and governed for Black individuals. But can we have white affinity cultural spaces?
You can have a white affinity cultural space. The activity is, the issue is
See,
that
I
you're
think
saying
that's against
Black
the Civil Rights
only.
Act.
It's not Black only. It's a Black affinity cultural space, but anyone is invited.
See, I want you all to pay attention to something. This is what I was trying to tell my friend yesterday, who was sitting up here trying to argue me down that Charlie Kirk wasn't racist, that he wasn't saying negative stuff about Black people. He was just pointing out the truth, and that Black people are too overly emotional, and we take everything too personal, and that's why we get mad and want to cry racism. This is a Black person that told me this. So with that all being said, let me prove to you that Charlie Kirk was lying. He was lying right there. Y'all know I fact check everything and everybody. I don't care who you are. If you say something and I have questions, I'm going to fact check you. So let's talk about it. What schools did he just say had the Blacks only dorms? Hold on, let me wind it back.
And if a white person were to apply to live there?
It's a Black affinity
they would
cultural
not-
space of which only Black individuals are accepted and governed for Black individuals. But can we have white affinity cultural spaces?
You can have a white affinity cultural space. The activity is, it
But
doesn't. Where does
just
it
to
say
be-
that?
Just to be clear, well, in the title, but let's
No,
pretend
but
it says
where?
Black.
Like what school? Where does it say Black only building?
Eastern Washington University, Portland State University, just off the top of my head, San Jose State University.
They say Black only dormitory? And if a white person were to apply to live there?
It's a Black affinity
they would
cultural
not-
space of which only Black individuals are accepted and governed for Black individuals. But can we have white affinity cultural spaces?
You can have a white affinity cultural space. The activity is, the issue is
See,
that
I
you're
think
saying
that's against
Black
the Civil Rights
only.
Act.
It's not Black only. It's a Black affinity cultural space, but anyone is invited if they would like to participate.
I would, first of all,
You cannot legislatively not
I
allow
agree.
someone of any race to participate in
no,
something.
we-
That doesn't.
Now watch me prove that he's a liar who lies. Watch this. I'm going to pull up the receipts. Hold on. We'll go back to the video in just a second, but I want you all to see this. That's why I'm telling you, people sit up here and believe stuff that people are saying without doing a bit of darn research. Okay, so he said that these dorms, these college campuses had Blacks only dorms. That's lies and BS. Y'all know I'm a professor, so I know this, but let me just show y'all the facts and proof. See this? Because he said Eastern Washington University. So I said, does Eastern Washington University have Blacks only dorms? The answer is no. Eastern Washington University does not have Blacks only dorms. Okay, as a search of its housing and diversity information does not show any such programs. Y'all see that? Y'all see that? Now watch this. Because he also said, because you could say, well, maybe he made a mistake. He misspoke. Okay, maybe he did. But here's the thing. He also said Portland State University. And as you can see, no, Portland State University does not have Black-only dorms or Black affinity housing in its university housing system. The university's housing options primarily focus on traditional residence halls, suites, and apartments, with features like all-gender housing with no specific race-based living communities. Do y'all hear this? Do y'all hear this? Now, what's the last one he said? The last one he said was San Jose. San Jose. Let's look at that one. Maybe he got this one right. Hold on, I'm typing it in. Maybe he's going to get at least one of them right. Well, no. Third strike, Charlie. Y'all to pay attention. Because when lies are being told, you need to make sure you're not the one believing them. That's how that should be going. No, San Jose State University does not. Okay, I repeat, does not have Blacks only dorms. However, it does offer an inclusive Black scholars community living learning experience that is open to all students and focuses on academic excellence, leadership, and support for the Black community on campus. It's open to all students, just like I told you guys. Okay? But let's keep listening. Let me put this back on the screen. Likes up, everyone. Please like and share. Thank you in advance. Y'all gonna learn today.
We agree. That's the spirit of the diversity, equity, inclusion order, is that DEI in practice, again, we have to go through example after example, is discrimination, prejudice, and segregation.
Let's talk about DEI in practice. Let's talk about DEI programs in the workforce, because DEI programs in the workforce happen to benefit veterans. They benefit people with disabilities. They benefit people at an economic desperate. They benefit lots of people that is not just on the basis of race. And to me, it feels like you're conflating DEI with pro-Blackness or Black only, which is not the definition of DEI.
So let's take a high-profile DEI example. Is that cool? Just maybe one we can play around with.
Okay.
Which got me in a lot of viral trouble, which I don't care. Which is pilots.
I got in a lot of viral trouble too. I was debating this guy.
I
you know.
And he kept interrupting you.
He did.
I know, right? Which is this? Which is that? Let's say DEI. A project of DEI at United Airlines was that we want to get 40% of our pilots to be Black or women of color, or women or people of color.
40%.
50. I'm sorry, to get up to 50. It was at like 6%. So therefore, they wanted to make a push towards that, and it was currently at 6%. We look at that and we say, "Wow, you're going to have to lower standards to get to that goal."
Why would you have to lower standards?
Well, because
are you saying that Black people are inherently inferior?
I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying that Black people are only 13% of the population. So you want 13% of the population.
Women are not 13% of the population. Women are 50% of the population.
Yeah, but women do not make up a majority of people that want to become pilots. In fact, vast majority of women don't want to be pilots.
Maybe they would want to become pilots if the barriers for entry
well,
weren't.
See that now we're going down a different but equally fun direction, which is male-female differences. Men much more likely want to be involved in heavy machinery mechanics. They want to be pilots. They want to be tank operators. They want to be police officers. Whereas women much more likely want to be, I'll get to you, Mason. Don't worry. And I remember your name.
Yes, can Mason go? They won't let him go because he's not
Mason
USC.
go. I'll let Mason go. But just, Mason, have some patience. We did this last time, okay? But do you understand, at least from our perspective, because it's no good for us to go back and forth again, maybe from our perspective, that we worry that the pursuit of diversity can mean the compromising of excellence.
Charlie Kirk, this country is diverse. You can't just say the pursuit of diversity is compromising excellence. Diversity literally just means difference. This country is 13% Black. It's 14% immigrant. It's 1/5 of every person in this country is Hispanic. It's 7% homosexual, and 50% of the country disagrees with you. Okay, diversity is America. You cannot say
all of that is true.
You
hold on.
are America first if you do not care about half of America?
I care about them so much, in fact.
You care about them so much that you don't want to give them
I didn't interrupt you.
access
I care
to
about
equal rights.
Well, hold on. No one said rights. Hold on a second. No. I care about them.
It's equal rights. It's
Naima,
equal
let
access.
me finish. Now, who's interrupting here? I care about them so much. I want the only thing that they're ever judged on is to be their character or their competency, not their skin color.
Okay, so you want it to be a meritocracy.
Yes.
Want it to be so let's talk about a meritocracy.
Okay.
What experience does Kash Patel have to run the FBI?
He has amazing experience.
No,
In
he
fact,
doesn't. He wanted to start a UFC fighting
He has
program
amazing
at the FBI.
experience. I got 5 words in. He was the most important thing. He was a public defender.
That's not what that's not the job of the FBI. He has no experience in the FBI.
He was a public defender and he was a special prosecutor.
Was he ever a member of the FBI?
No, but
he doesn't have the merit to have
hold
that
on a
job. All right,
second.
let's do another example.
But
What
I'm
experience
not
does
done.
Linda McMahon?
I'm not
what
done.
experience does Linda McMahon have to run?
She ran the
Department of
Small
Education?
Business Administration in the first term, which is a big organization. She was the head of the SBA.
When she was the CEO of
No, hold on.
WWE,
I'm not even talking about that. She ran the SBA. By
one
the
of
way,
her employees was engaging in pedophilic behavior with their ring boys under her watch.
I'm not going to defend
and now
that.
she
but
is somehow qualified to be responsible
she
for
was
all of America's
1 second.
children.
Hold on a second. She was previously a cabinet secretary and then became a different cabinet secretary. That's like a 1-to-1.
Yeah, and then before that, she was enabling a pedophile.
So what you're first of all, I don't know about that instance. If that's true, that's wrong.
That's very much true. How do you not know about that, Charlie?
I don't
it's
know
like
about
very much
Okay. Again,
public information. It's really important to know.
Great.
Okay, so you guys, she's clearly getting him. She's tearing him up. And he doesn't have any answers. He can't debunk anything she's saying. He's grasping at straws right now. But also, I wanted to point out that he has on that ring that you all were talking about. And somebody said it was a Mason ring. And yesterday I told you it wasn't, or last night. Well, come to find out it actually is. It actually is. So we'll get into that because I have the receipts. Okay, but let's keep listening.
That the head of the Department of Education is currently in a lawsuit.
But let me finish the point, which is that the WWE can be easily made fun of. That's a serious business, though. It's a multi-billion-dollar business.
It is that engaged in pedophilic activities.
Of which I denounce. I don't support that. However, she was head of the SBA, and now she's head of the Department of Education. Tell me another unqualified person.
Another unqualified person?
Marco Rubio
Pete
Okay.
No, actually, I
hold
think
on.
Marco is slightly more.
She should have said Trump. Another unqualified person is Trump, the darn president. That too.
So let's talk about Hegseth. He's the most qualified because he actually accepted enemy fire and lost loved ones and friends of his own.
That doesn't make you.
Hold on.
Dude,
To
that doesn't.
run.
Because he lost people, that makes him qualified. You know how stupid that is? That sounds crazy. So because somebody lost people, that makes them qualified to be the Secretary of Defense. Oh, I'm sorry. Trump changed it. It's the Secretary of War. Please pay attention.
To run the U.S. military, to be a warrior, not just an academic general, that's very important.
Look, dude, I respect veterans. My boyfriend's a veteran. I love veterans. That being said, not every person who is a veteran is qualified to run the Department of Defense.
I think he's also shown the last couple of weeks he's doing a pretty phenomenal job. The prior head of the DOD, Lloyd Austin, could barely climb up a flight of stairs. Pete Hegseth is up at 5 a.m. doing PT with the troops, running.
Now, imagine Charlie Kirk sitting here praising all of them like they're doing such good jobs and they're so qualified. And then when he passes shortly after saying all of that, how Kash Patel, the man that he just said was qualified, fumbles and bumbles the investigation into his own death. Isn't it ironic and sad at the same time? Please pay attention.
Miles and then doing an entire day at the Pentagon. And you might say that doesn't matter. I actually think physical fitness and being a good example to our troops is very important when you're the head of the Department of Defense.
Okay, but being the head of the Department of Defense is not about doing push-ups.
Hold on, but first of all, it's actually just refreshing versus Mark Milley and Lloyd Austin. But secondly, I will say the criteria is that he's a warrior's warrior. He's someone that was in the front lines and actually received medals and knows what it's like to lose loved ones. And the other people that were qualified, Naima, were people that got us in endless wars, people that never saw combat. I think it's finally time that we have someone in combat that runs the Secretary of Defense. I think that's immensely qualified.
Okay, sure. So we'll take Pete Hegseth for Department of Defense.
Yes, he's doing a great job.
Someone who enabled pedophilia for the Department of Education.
That's an unfair
We'll take Kash Patel,
categorization.
who's never worked in the FBI.
He was a prosecutor, so the FBI's a
Dude, do you remember what he said when he first got the nomination?
Do you want to go back to Kash Patel for a second?
He said, yeah. I'm like, this is sick.
Okay,
that
can
is
we
an
go back to
incredible
Kash
thing
Patel,
to say.
though?
That is like insanely inappropriate.
Can we go back to Kash Patel? So he was himself a prosecutor that tried cases. That's a law enforcement mechanism. I think they're asking for someone else.
All right.
Well, guys, this is interesting. Like,
So y'all heard that. I find it all so nefarious at the end of the day. She was cooking him. And one thing about it is, Jerron, you're absolutely right, said that lady isn't letting him lead the conversation like he likes to cut folks off and give them a one-sided question to get the answer he wants. Exactly. You see, that's what some people do when they're debating. If they can't debunk what you're saying, they'll just try to overtalk you and then start asking you certain questions to throw you off of your game. But she was stuck to him like glue and wasn't backing down, and she wasn't letting him get out of it. And he did not want to talk about that person that she kept saying was enabling a PDF file. He didn't want to talk about that. Okay, so anyway, I find it all interesting. Now let's continue, because with that all being said, they have announced the people that are going to be speaking at Charlie Kirk's funeral. So let's get into it. And the fact of who they say is going to be speaking at his funeral further leads me to say that this man had to be a whole racist. I'm sorry, because that's who's speaking at his funeral. Y'all see this? This is the announcement. This is the announcement. Trump posted it to Truth Social. So here's what it says. Building a legacy, remembering Charlie Kirk. Remarks delivered by Erica Kirk, Donald J. Trump, J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, Donald Trump Jr., Tucker Carlson, Stephen Miller. Y'all hear that? Stephen Miller, that the main wanton supremacist that I can't stand, Sergio Gore, Suzette Scott. Okay, and this is going to be September the 21st in Glendale, Arizona. Fightforcharlie.com. All right. So there you have it. I know some people thought that they'd already had the funeral because they saw that video with the casket, but no, they haven't. It's September the 21st. They're going to have his memorial and all of that. So now let's get into this. First of all, the young man, Tyler Robinson, I told you all on yesterday about the text messages between him and his roommate and all that stuff, and how they just, how they prove that, or basically, got the information that he's the one that did it. And they said the murder of Charlie Kirk is an American tragedy. And then they talked about the DNA on the trigger of the rifle that killed him, matched that of Tyler Robinson's and all of that. So did I show you all the video of him in court? Did I show you all the video of him in court? One's in the chat. I can't remember if I showed you all that last night, but did I show you all the video of Tyler Robinson in court yesterday when I had the lounge on here? One's in the chat. So I don't want to show it again if I already did. Let me know. Let me know. Okay, so you all are saying no. Okay, so I'm going to go to that. I forgot to show you all some stuff last night. I was up here running my mouth with the lounge, honey. Doing too darn much. Okay, here we go. Now, this was on yesterday.
I have found the secret that the biggest YouTubers don't want you to know. Have you noticed how going viral on TikTok doesn't translate over to YouTube?
The sentencing judge or the Board of Pardons and Parole shall consider the defendant's selection of the victim as an aggravating factor. Violent offense committed in the presence of a child, aggravating factor. Board of Pardons and Parole shall consider an aggravating factor in their deliberations that the defendant committed a violent offense in the presence of a child. Count 3, obstruction of justice. a second-degree felony in violation of Utah Code Annotated 76-8-306 sub 2, in that on September 10th, 2025 in Utah County, the defendant Tyler James Robinson, with intent to hinder, delay, or prevent the investigation, apprehension, prosecution, conviction, or pursuant to any person regarding conduct that constitutes a criminal offense, conceal or remove the firearm used to shoot Charlie Kirk, and the conduct that constitutes an offense would be a capital felony or a first-degree felony. Count 4, obstruction of justice, a second-degree felony in violation of Utah Code 76-8-306 sub 2, in that on or about September 11th, 2025 in Utah County, the defendant, Tyler James Robinson, with an intent to hinder, delay, or prevent the investigation, apprehension, prosecution, conviction, or punishment of any person regarding conduct that constitutes a criminal offense, destroyed, concealed, or removed the clothing he wore during the shooting, and the conduct that constitutes an offense would be a capital felony or first-degree felony. Count 5, tampering with a witness, a third-degree felony in violation of Utah Code Annotated 76-8-508, in that on or about September 10th, 2025 in Utah County, the defendant, Tyler James Robinson, believed that an official proceeding or investigation was pending or about to be instituted, or intended to prevent an official proceeding or investigation, and attempted to induce or otherwise cause his roommate to withhold testimony, information, a document, or an item, to wit, directing his roommate to delete incriminating text messages. Count 6, tampering with a witness, a third-degree felony in violation of Utah Code Annotated 76-8-508, in that on or about September 11th, 2025 in Utah County, the defendant, Tyler James Robinson, believed that an official proceeding or investigation was pending or about to be instituted, or intended to prevent an official proceeding or investigation, and attempted to induce or otherwise cause his roommate to withhold testimony or information, to wit, directing his roommate to stay silent if the police questioned the roommate. Count 7, violent offense committed in the presence of a child, a Class A misdemeanor in violation of Utah Code Annotated 76-3-203.10 sub 2 and 76-3-203.14 sub 3a little double I, in that on or about September 10th, 2025 in Utah County, the defendant, Tyler James Robinson, committed criminal homicide in the physical presence of a child younger than 14 years of age, with knowledge that a child was present and that may have been seen or heard the commission of the criminal homicide. Victim targeting enhancement in violation of Utah Code Annotated 76-3-203.14 sub 2, Tyler James Robinson intentionally selected Charlie Kirk because of Tyler James Robinson's belief or perception regarding Charlie Kirk's political expression. That concludes reading the information. Mr. Robinson, this case is set for September 29th at 10 a.m. It will be a waiver hearing, and I will be the judge assigned to this case. Mr. Robinson, I invite you to join us at that time. Is there anything further, counsel?
No, Your Honor, we'll have counsel appointed by then. Thank you.
Mr. Gurander, anything further?
One item, just for clarification, Your Honor, the hearing on the 29th, is that in person or WebEx?
Thank you. That is a great question. It will be via WebEx.
Okay. Thank you, Judge.
All right. I want to thank all parties for being here, and this concludes this hearing at this time. Court is in recess.
We're talking about common ground. Hey, two buddies, it is game time. Out of these two thumbnails, one of them scored 40% more clicks than the other. Can you guess which one?
Okay, beloveds. All right. Now, with that all being said, hold on. Okay, so with that all being said, they hit him with a whole lot of charges. That's what they did. They hit him with everything they could, honey. They threw in everything except the kitchen sink. And definitely are seeking the death penalty for him. All right. And here's the thing that I find interesting too. I meant to tell you all this. So you all remember the black teenager, the 18-year-old woman that was arrested on the campus in Texas for basically harassing those people, like flip the guy's hat and going in on them about the Charlie Kirk poster and stuff he had. So, and how they said Governor Greg Abbott agreed with her being expelled from the college and arrested and all of that. But what's interesting is somebody posted where Governor Greg Abbott was talking about freedom of speech on college campuses. And now they said he's against it. Now, in her case, she was doing more than, using her freedom of speech, because she actually put her hands on that guy's head. That was her problem. But I find it interesting how the right, please pay attention, have always claimed to be proponents for freedom of speech. But now they all want to silence people, and want everybody who has something to say, that isn't favorable to Charlie Kirk, they want everybody to be quiet.
Some colleges are banning free speech on college campuses. Well, no more, because I'm about to sign a law that protects free speech on college campuses in Texas. Shouldn't have to do it. First Amendment guarantees it. Now it's law in Texas.
A few moments later.
Members of our society, whether they be students or otherwise, who celebrate an assassination, we have dramatic course correction that we have to take in this state. And a place where we can engage in that course correction is in our schools and on our campuses. Whenever we see students who are celebrating an assassination.
Some colleges are banning free speech on college campuses. Well, no more, because I'm about to sign a law that protects free speech on college campuses in Texas. Shouldn't have to do it. First Amendment guarantees it. Now
y'all see that? Completely flipped the script. Okay? Completely flipped the script. Okay, so now with that all been said, so what have we learned here today, folks? What have we learned here today, beloveds? What receipts did I bring? Well, I'm so glad you asked. I proved to you that some of the stuff Charlie Kirk said, specifically when he was quoting statistics and percentages, were not factually accurate. Okay, him saying that those colleges had all black dorms was completely lies and BS. I showed you the proof. So I just want you all to pay attention. And how he said disparaging things about Dr. King and the civil rights movement at large, but they want to call him a civil rights fighter. And they say they want him to have a street like Dr. King, and they compare him to Dr. King. All nonsensical. Okay, all nonsensical. At the end of the day. And yes, Eric, you're right. She did touch his cap. That's really all she did, was touch it. But she shouldn't even have done that, beloved, because it just gave them what they wanted. And that was a reason to lock her up. Okay, because they didn't like what she was saying. So now with that all being said, let's continue, because we got a few more things to show, to get into. Then I'm going to be out of here because I got to come back later. All right, so now let's go to this. A couple of more things that Charlie said before we get into these Dems talking about a war and all of that. Here we go. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance. Now, this is Charlie speaking on George Floyd, and then we're going to go to what he said about Juneteenth.
Listen to this one to the end, guys.
I saw a clip somewhere that you were trying to get the officer who murdered George Floyd pardoned, and I just want to know what your reasoning was about that.
Well, George Floyd didn't die because of the police officer. He died largely because of a drug overdose.
But he had his knee on his neck. We all saw the video.
But the knee on the neck is actually an approved police technique that police departments taught Derek Chauvin to use. Do you know that George Floyd was saying, "I couldn't breathe," well before that restraining technique? And
so why'd they use the technique if he already couldn't breathe?
Well, because he was actually resisting arrest, and they had to restrain him, and they restrained him in a way that they were taught to do, which is the knee on the neck technique.
Okay, so you all heard that, right? Now let's go to his views on Juneteenth, which had nothing to do with him. If he didn't want to celebrate it, all he had to do was not celebrate it. Why get mad because they're allowing us to have our own holiday? Okay, I'm sorry, but he seemed like he was a whole hater. That's what it seems like.
What exactly is going on here? Well, very few people are willing to actually call this out. From the first time that this was floated as a federal holiday, I am thankful and proud to say on this program, we opposed it. This is not about out of many one. No, it's about a certain skin color now gets their own summertime celebration. The exact same thing that happens before NFL games where they play the Black national anthem. This recognition of this as a quote-unquote federal holiday comes right out of the 1619 Project. Look who's most excited that this is a federal holiday. And they're not talking about this as a massive celebration. Oh, wow, look how far blacks have come. It has now become a racial complaining day. Now we have a full day to be able to smear and slander white America. This holiday is a wedge, and I put in quotes, holiday is a wedge used to push for countless destructive policies demanded by BLM. And remember what BLM stands for: burn, loot, and murder. Juneteenth becoming a federal holiday is a nationalized race hustle.
Y'all heard that, right? He said it was a nationalized race hustle, honey. Okay, but let me point out another lie that he just told. Okay, so remember when the young lady was asking him about George Floyd? And then he said that George Floyd, when she said, well, if he couldn't breathe, if he already couldn't breathe, why did they put the knee on the neck? He said because he was resisting, and then they did a maneuver that they were taught to do, right? That's a lie. That's another lie. Let me try to enlarge. Why do I have this overlay on here? Let me take that off so y'all can see. That's a whole nother lie. Let me try to enlarge it. See, the lies are coming out, honey. Okay, because y'all know I bring receipts, period. You see that? That's not a police technique that they're supposed to do. That's why Derek Chauvin is in prison yet again. Okay, I typed in, are cops taught to put their knee on a person's neck to control them? Because I know you're not supposed to. That's called excessive force. All right, which is why Derek Chauvin got in trouble. No, police are generally not taught to place their knee on a person's neck for control, as this technique is considered excessive force and it's dangerous. Okay, the movement used by Derek Chauvin on George Floyd was not a trained restraint technique by the Minneapolis Police Department, and many departments have banned the use of knee on neck tactics. Instead, officers are taught to use the necessary force to ensure compliance and take somebody into custody, but not to apply it to the neck area, when a subject is restrained or cuffed. Okay, you all see how this man was just saying things that were not true. Okay, and the people who knew that he was saying things that were not true are the people who say that he was racist. That's why we say that. That's why we believe that. Because he would lie on Black people. Now, I know some people don't want to hear that, but he would literally tell lies on Black people and make it sound like the truth. Now that's, beloveds, it's dangerous. And this man is being compared to Dr. King. I don't think so. They are not the same. Now, they can give Charlie Kirk a holiday if they want to. I'm not going to complain. Why would he complain about us having Juneteenth? Why would he care? And if we complained about racism, oppression or whatever in this country on that day, why would he care? I guarantee you on that day, people are celebrating and just trying to have a good time and having a cookout and things like that. I don't think anybody's spending the day complaining, but even if so, why would he care? If they say, let's have a Charlie Kirk street, let's have a Charlie Kirk holiday, if they said that right now, I don't care. Because if I want to celebrate it, I will, and if I don't, I won't. You see how that works? It's that easy. It is that easy. I don't have to get up here and complain and say, well, why are they having a Charlie Kirk holiday? It's for white people. They're all going to be celebrating him and trying to act like he's Dr. King's greatest. And all of that. I don't care. Okay? But he obviously did care. All right. So anyway, with that all being said, let's continue because do y'all know that they're talking about fighting out here in these streets? They're talking about fighting out here, honey. It's all crazy. So let's get into it. Because first of all, no. We're still on Charlie Kirk for a second. First, I just forgot about this. Let's talk about what he said about poor little Trayvon Martin. Okay. See, I'm just showing you all the reasons why some people who look like me and others, and even some of his own white people, more of them speaking out about his racism than us. But this is why some people believe that he was racist and divisive. Of course, it's a tragedy that they took his life in such a vile and heinous way. I wouldn't say that anyone deserved that, especially in front of their wife and children. That is absolutely nefarious. I don't agree with celebrating anyone's demise. I surely wouldn't want anyone celebrating mine. But at the end of the day, let's not sit here and paint narratives and tell fictitious stories and paint someone as something that they never were. Okay? With that all being said.
George Zimmerman was hunted at night by Trayvon Martin at 2 a.m. and the stand your ground law allows you to stand your ground up against people that wish you harm. George Zimmerman was hunted at night by Trayvon Martin at 2 a.m. and the
Sanford Police Department. Line's being recorded. Sean.
Hey, we've had some break-ins in my neighborhood, and there's a real suspicious guy. This guy looks like he's up to no good, or he's on drugs or something. He looks black.
Did you see what he was wearing?
A dark hoodie, like a gray hoodie, and he's got something in his hands. I don't know what his deal is. These assholes, they always get away. Shit, he's running.
Are you following him?
Yeah.
Okay, we don't need you to do that.
911, do you need police, fire, medical? Maybe both, I'm not sure. There's just someone screaming outside. All right, what is your...
Well, my first response to the news of Trayvon Martin's death was as a parent.
It's the story that's ignited fierce passions across the nation.
The thing we fear most.
The shooting death of a black youth in Florida sent out new shockwaves today.
Then, when you found out the circumstances, I responded specifically as a black parent and as a black man.
You know, if I had a son, he'd look like Trayvon.
I don't know what this child could have done to be safe, except not be black.
The idea that this teenager who was walking down the street could be considered so threatening that a private citizen could initiate a confrontation, resulting in that teenager's death.
He simply went to the store and was headed back home. And for somebody to look at him and perceive him to be a burglar, that is the problem.
How dare they say that this wannabe security guard had the right to, based on his imagined threat, kill this guy.
President Obama gave that moving response.
I think all of us have to do some soul searching to figure out how does something like this happen.
You know, when I saw his photographs, I thought, wow, he looks like Barack.
Trayvon Martin looked like I did at the age of 15, 16, 17. There were many times I'd get on the elevator and women would clutch their purse, or I'd walk by a car and suddenly you'd hear the locks go down. And then maybe the only thing that separated us was luck.
Rest in peace to Trayvon Martin and all those who lost their lives tragically at the hands of police officers while they were unarmed at a mere traffic stop. Okay? So that's all I'm saying right there. Talking trash about Trayvon Martin and completely lying on black people. You all heard him sit there and lie. Y'all heard him sit there and lie on Trayvon Martin. And I played it twice just in case you all didn't hear it the first time because the clip was so short. But said that Trayvon Martin was stalking George Zimmerman and George Zimmerman had a right to do what he did. No, he didn't. He was not the one that was being followed. He was the one that was following. And you heard the audio of the 911 call. That's why I played it. Those are the receipts to prove that what he said wasn't true. That what he said wasn't true. George Zimmerman was the one stalking Trayvon. And even after he told the dispatcher he was following him, the dispatcher said, "Are you following me?" He said, "Yes." He said, "Okay, we don't need you to do that." But he did it anyway. He said, "These assholes, they always get away." Get away with what? He was walking to the store minding his own black business. But nobody cares about that. They didn't have a moment of silence for Trayvon. That's what they didn't do. Innocent teenager, dead due to racism. But Charlie Kirk wanted to act as though George Zimmerman was well within his rights, as if he did nothing wrong. And so the same for Derek Chauvin? Yeah, I don't think so. I absolutely don't think so. Now, with that all being said, let's talk about all this beef and the war that they want to have, honey. This is all crazy because, first of all, hold on. One more thing before I get to that. Let's talk about this ring. You all were saying, some of y'all were saying that it was a Mason ring. Okay, the ring that Charlie Kirk's wife had on when she was at his casket. This is the ring right here. Ups, and that's the Mason ring, and they both have the G on it. And I said, I don't think that's a Mason ring. They don't look alike, but clearly it is, because here's what they say. I'm going to share my screen. Likes up, everyone. Please don't forget to like and share. Okay, here's what they say. Let's get into it. It says, people think there's a secret meaning behind the ring Erica Kirk wore in the video with Charlie's body. People are questioning if there's a secret meaning behind the ring Erica Kirk was wearing in the video that she shared at the weekend. Now, Charlie Kirk was killed on Wednesday last week during a speech at a Utah Valley University event. So days after Charlie Kirk's death, Erica shared a photo or video and pictures of her with the open casket holding her husband's body. In the video, Erica could be seen leaning into an open coffin and hugging the 31-year-old's body. Another picture showed her holding her husband's hand next to a big gold medallion with the U.S. flag and an American eagle on the front. Now, one video panned down Charlie's dead body before showing Erica holding his hand and kissing it whilst in tears. The coffin, Charlie is wearing a navy blue suit, a white shirt, and a red tie. But what's distracting people is the ring Erica Kirk was wearing. This is a tough watch of hashtag Erica Kirk mourning her husband, hashtag Charlie Kirk, leaning over his body, kissing his hands. Okay, what's the meaning behind the ring Erica Kirk could be seen wearing? In the video, Erica Kirk was wearing a huge gold ring with a G on it. Gold rings with G markings can be indicators of Freemasons. Y'all hear that? According to one jewelry brand that makes them, a G symbol ring is a powerful symbol of Freemasonry and a testament to tradition and brotherhood. As per the site, this ring is a lasting token of the values shared by the Freemasons. Okay, y'all heard that right? Sharing the video of Erica Kirk, one person commented saying, "Why is there a Mason G on her ring? I don't like to dive too far into conspiracies, but," and then another person said, "This appeared to be the letter G on Erica Kirk's middle finger, which is a Freemason symbol." They say Freemasonry is a fraternal organization for those who express a belief in a supreme being and a desire to improve themselves and expand their social circles. It follows many elements of a religion, but it's not actually a Christian institution. The Freemasons is a pretty secretive society. With regards to Erica Kirk, it's all just internet rumor. Others have argued that Erica Kirk has always been very open with her religious beliefs, so the G could simply stand for God. Another person also said it could also be for Erica and Charlie's daughter, whose name is Gigi. Okay, yeah, I don't think it stands for Gigi. What do y'all think, honey? All interesting. All very interesting. Okay. Ha! Vince I Am is so nefarious said, "Will the real Illuminati please stand up?" And then look at the way you spelled Illuminati, literally with the word naughty at the end. You are something else, Vince I Am. Don't make me fly to the UK to go upside your head for being nefarious. Okay, with that all being said, I am so done. I am so done, honey. Okay, but let's continue. So now that we got that out of the way, see that I've been trying to tell you all, beloveds, this is why I forget to show you all videos and stuff sometimes, because I have so many receipts on sometimes on different stories that I can't remember them all. I have to write down notes to remind myself of some of these things. Okay, but so anyway, now let's get into it, honey, because Megyn Kelly called Barack Obama a snake, honey. Did y'all hear about it? Did y'all hear about it? Look at Lillian X can't even wait for me to get the words out. Talking about Queen. Were you going to mention no Obama? Yes, honey. I was just doing so. See, you right on my wavelength. So listen. She called, Greta said, get your news from the Queen, okay? So listen, honey, she called Barack a snake. DJ Big Six said, no lies detected. That's how I said, you know I love you, Queen. Nefarious royals and royal minds. Sam. Oh, we love you too, honey. Look at Timothy talking about say what now? Let's get into it, honey, because I find it all so egregious. First of all, Megyn Kelly, girl. Okay, I have some grievances to voice about Obama myself, but girl, what you're not going to do is sit here and try to come for the only Black president. Now, see, here's the thing. I need you all to pay attention. Because what's really going on here is that they're blaming all the Black folk, okay? Because out of all these past presidents that she could have named, like Bill Clinton, okay, Biden, even better, why she go and pick on Obama? Why did she have to go and pick on Obama? I find it also interesting. So we're going to get into it, honey, because at the end of the day, I think this lady just be doing too much. Like I told y'all, they want war, honey. They're going in on the left. Okay. So let me pull up my receipts. Hold on. Here we go. Mm, mm, mm. Now listen to this. Your racism is showing, Megyn Kelly. Okay, she's under fire for calling Barack Obama a slick snake and blaming him for Donald Trump's rise. But girl, sit down. At the end of the day, so let's get into it. I'm going to go to the video first, and then I'm going to get into this article. Now, here's the thing. In this video, what she says about Obama, I think I have like 2 video clips of why she likely said that, why she likely said what she said about Obama.
We don't feel like ourselves. We haven't felt like ourselves in a while. And I'm sorry to get political, but I'm just going to be honest. We haven't felt like ourselves since Barack Obama. I just think he was such a slick snake. You know, he was this affable guy who was like wearing good suits and looked the part and sounded the part and dressed the part, but was so divisive in his messaging. The left, they look at you like when you say this, they don't know what you're talking about. It's like, because you don't pay attention to the other half of the country. You only pay attention to your absurd news sources, which spin and spin and spin to protect Democrats, especially if they're named Obama. He's the one who started to inject race where no one had been doing it. He's the one who started to use his pen and the phone to shove things down our throat that we didn't want. He's the one who shoved through an entitlement on our health care and our personal doctor visits that he promised he wouldn't mess with, and then he did, really hurting people, causing massive anger and open lies. He never missed an opportunity to twist the knife on the racial issue. He would do it subtly and in his own way, but it was very clear what he was doing. For the first time, we had a president who weighed in on legal cases before they'd played out. We never did that. That was a taboo that had never been crossed before him. And Donald Trump was the reason Barack Obama, reverse that. Barack Obama was the reason Donald Trump came about, that he was born as a political figure. They say Trump's divisive. He was the antidote. He was the answer to the divisiveness of Barack Obama. And we just haven't felt like ourselves for years now.
Every time I think about those kids, it gets me mad. And by the way, it happens on the streets of Chicago every day. So, we cannot simply turn away and dismiss those in peaceful protest as troublemakers or paranoid. Whether you are black or white or Hispanic or Asian or Native American or of Middle Eastern descent, we have all seen this bigotry in our own lives at some point. We've heard it at times in our own homes. If we're honest,
Obama came out, and I'm not a fan of his policies or anything whatsoever. I'm not a fan of him at all. But I will tell you this. He greeted and shook everyone's hand in that room, and there was a lot of people. He went to every single person. I was like, that's cool. I was like, regardless of what BS you're involved with, I was like, that was cool. And when we went to the hangar to offload the C-17s with all these caskets, flag draped, he stood at a hand salute, a very crisp one, the whole time. That dude did not move. And we were like going on like 3 days no sleep. I mean, we're sitting down because we're like exhausted. Our backs are killing us from the pain of just operating. And that dude did not move. He was just crisp. Did not move for 45 minutes. Like nothing. The whole time. As much as I don't agree with his policies and all the corruption I think that he's maybe involved in, he earned some respect from me on that day for showing that right there, to the respect for those men. I have to give that to him. I have to. I saw it with my own eyes. And those words, they were hard to come by, if any. What do you say by I know? I'm sorry. He was awesome.
Okay, so you all heard that. Now, here's the thing. She's sitting up there saying Obama was so divisive. That just further goes to show how these people can be on the left, on the right, how they can be so delusional. Okay, or such liars. Like, are they just lying because they want to lie, or being delusional? I beg to, question, because here's the thing. She's saying Barack was divisive. No, he was not. Racist people were being divisive. When Barack got in office and became the president, there were so many attacks on Black people. There was amped up police shootings on Black people. There was so much hatred on Black people, taking it out on us because Barack was in office. And also, there was so much of the hate and smearing of Barack Obama online, calling him a monkey, saying that Michelle was a man, saying all of these disparaging things, talking trash about him because he wore a tan suit, saying he didn't look presidential, just saying all kinds of things about these people, talking trash about Michelle's arms just because they were toned because she works out and eats healthy. There was all kinds of things. But she's trying to flip the script and say that he was being divisive. How? How was he being divisive? And then she acted as though he was stoking racial, tensions and things like that. No, he wasn't. He spoke out about Trayvon. He spoke out about George Floyd. Okay, what did she expect him to do? Not say anything? He's Black too. So I just find it also interesting. Yes, nitpicking, exactly. Okay, exactly. Nitpicking. Okay, just always pointing a finger of blame and shame, and always want to call out the Black folk. And for what? So anyway, she just went on to blame him, but praising Trump, saying that Trump was the anecdote. Don't you all find that interesting? How in the hell was Trump the anecdote when Trump's the one who instigated his followers to go up there and have a whole insurrection and riot at that Capitol? That was all divisive. Mad because he didn't win. Wants to start mess between the left and the right. Doing the same thing even now in Charlie's death, unfortunately. They're the ones being divisive. They're the ones calling for revenge. They're the ones talking about war. Oh, they've declared war on us. It's the right being so divisive. But trying to flip the script and blame it on everybody else. And like I said, specifically Black people. Now these HBCUs have been threatened. Now there's a Black man's found hanging from a tree. You know what I'm saying? This is all so crazy. Now here she is calling out Barack Obama. Why not Biden? Wasn't he the last one that was in office before Trump? But no, let's go attack the black man and put a black face to it, because that's what we want to do. Fox News, GOP, make it all make sense. So anyway, Kelly's comments come on the heels of the deadly shooting of white ring provocateur Charlie Kirk. Kirk was killed on September the 10th while answering questions in Utah at Utah Valley University during a speaking tour. Meanwhile, Kelly also accused the country's first black president of lying about health care and breaking long-lasting presidential norms by weighing in on legal cases. He's the one who started to use his pen and the phone to shove things down our throats that we didn't want, she said. He's the one who shoved through an entitlement on our health care and our personal doctor visits that he promised he wouldn't mess with. And then he did, really hurting people, causing massive anger and open lies. Now, a clip of Kelly's remarks drew backlash and rebuke on Threads. This is wild. Show me a video of Obama calling his political opponent, John McCain, a disgrace, or calling the press the enemy of the people, or calling Republicans the enemy within. Say less, Megan. I think your racism is showing. That's what one person wrote. Another despicable piece of you know what. That's what somebody else said. They said, who listens to that twat? Someone said injected race into everything means having the nerve to be black. That's what somebody said. Yeah, that is it. Yeah, because she said he injected race into everything. That's because he was a black man, and many of the things that occurred while he was in office happened to the black community. Because people were mad because he was the president. Okay? However, some people agreed that there was some truth to what Kelly had to say. Someone said, I was in a conservative Christian high school when he was elected. These people believed it was a sign of the end times, and they still do. They would say that this would embolden minorities to perpetuate violence on white people and forcibly steal our houses. Y'all hear this? Attack them and steal their houses. That sounds like what they did to our people back during every single one of the race riots in this country. Attack the black folk and destroy their property or steal it and take the land. That's what that sounds like. Not forcibly steal their houses. See how that's so demented? Why would they think that that's something we would do? To perpetuate violence on white people and forcibly steal our houses. It was the first time they looked at a president and didn't see themselves reflected back. And they lost their god-dang minds, one person wrote. Yeah, that's exactly what it was, honey. So y'all hear that? So, but let's go to Trump and what he had to say with his nefarious self. Just hours after the killing of conservative influencer Charlie Kirk, when police were still searching for a suspect and a motive, President Donald Trump promised to crack down on the radical left, the radical left groups that he blamed for his death and for rising political violence across the country. I want y'all to pay attention. Radical left political violence has hurt too many innocent people and taken too many lives, he said in the Oval Office address, adding that he would find each and every one of those who contributed to this atrocity. Y'all hear this? Honey, Trump is a whole hot mess. Here's J.D. Vance. Hold on. Now you have Vice President J.D. Vance was hosting Charlie Kirk's show. I'm going to play that clip in a second, but hold on. Now they say, speaking again on Tuesday, days after the killing, Trump said that most of the violence was on the left. Okay, but the data tells a different story. Please pay attention, honey. Okay, in the last 5 years, mind you, 81 people have been killed by political violence in the United States. Right-wing terrorists account for over half of those murders. Trump, did you know that? GOP, do y'all hear it? Some 54%, according to research by the Cato Institute. See, I be doing the research and finding the receipts. Please pay attention. And also, some of this came from a libertarian think tank. Now, Islamists account for 21% and left-wingers for 22%. Trump, so y'all are leading the pack for the political violence and foolery, 54%, sir. Now, that same study looked at some data as far back as 1975 and found that terrorists inspired by Islamist ideology account for some 87% of all the deaths. And that would be like 3,000, like 3,122, okay, from police violence due to the mass casualties of the 9/11 attacks. Now, excluding the 9/11 attacks over the same period, terrorists inspired by right-wing ideology are responsible for 63% of deaths from political violence during that time, compared to 10% for left-wing attacks. So y'all hearing this? Trump, are you listening? Now, since 1975, there have been 391 deaths caused by right-wing terror attacks in the United States and 65 from left-wing terror attacks. They're leading the way for decades. They've been leading the way for decades. And just for kicks and giggles, let me just show y'all this chart that I found to substantiate my claims. Y'all see that? Y'all see that? Please pay attention. The ideology of political murders. As Trump calls for a crackdown on the radical left, an analysis from the Cato Institute of 620 politically motivated murders since 1975 shows that when 9/11 is excluded, because that was a one-time incident where multiple people were killed, so we're going to take that out of the equation, most political violence comes from the right. Murders by ideology is politically motivated terrorism since 1975, excluding 9/11. Do y'all see that? 391 on the right. Okay? They even outdid the Islamism. So they need to sit down somewhere. Okay, they are in fact the worst of the worst. Do y'all see this? Do y'all see this? And Black people are not even included, honey, because we didn't do nothing. Ha! We didn't do anything. But let me continue. So, with that all being said, Colin Clark, senior researcher to the Sofin Center focusing on domestic and transnational terrorism, says the data shows a clear disparity in lethality between left and right when it comes to political violence, Trump. Saying there's no question that if you look at the numbers in terms of lethality, okay, it is the far right that's been far more lethal. Okay? Please pay attention. Let's talk about it. Tree of Life. That incident, the El Paso Walmart attack. Let's just name a few. Buffalo Market shooting, for example. Those are just a few examples. Do I need to continue? Each of the attacks that I just mentioned was committed by extremists, wanton supremacists, who had motivations to do so because they didn't like the people that didn't look like them. Okay? I mean, in the El Paso Walmart attack, they didn't like the immigrants. Felt like the immigrants were trying to take over and replace them. That's what the extremist who was the shooter thought. Okay? Patrick Crusius, wasn't that his name? Then with the Buffalo shooting with Gendron, he wanted to go and take out the Black folk. So anyway, Clark notes that Trump's speech mentioned notable instances of left-wing terror in recent years, but dodged any mention of the right-wing terror. That's what he didn't do. See, here's the thing. Charlie Kirk, like Trump, didn't want to point out the shortcomings of the people that he viewed in favor. Trump wants to blame everything on the left, doesn't want to take any accountability or culpability for the things that the right does or that they instigate. So he mentioned all these issues of far left terrorism, but completely omitted the attack on the Michigan governor, Gretchen Whitmer. Remember how they were talking about kidnapping her, charging her with treason, and then putting her to death? Do you all remember me reporting on that back in 2020? These people were a whole mess. He omitted the attack on Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Remember how they were fighting on the state capitol and had a doll image of her with a noose around the neck? They say, I don't think he mentioned the arson attack against Governor Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania. Remember that when I reported on it, that man's house was messed all up? Okay. They smoke bombed that man's house. Now they say, so do we only care about one type of extremism? And if so, why wouldn't we care about the more lethal threat? Exactly. And that's just like that college student who was debating Charlie Kirk. She said, how do you claim to be saying America first when you only care about half of America? Well, Trump, I have the same question for you, boo-boo. How is it that you claim to put America first and want to make America great again, but you only care about one part of America? And that's the part that benefits him. Now, the Trump administration's focus on left-wing violence at the expense of the more deadly threat of right-wing violence was drawn into sharp focus on Monday when Trump was asked by a reporter whether flags should have been flown at half-staff following the recent assassination of Minnesota Democratic lawmaker Melissa Hartman, as they were for Charlie Kirk. He said, I'm not familiar. Who? This is what Trump said. So disrespectful. He literally said, I'm not familiar. Who? This man didn't give a darn about that woman losing her life. But you're supposed to be the president. Didn't even have the decency to call and show support for the family or even speak to the mayor or the governor of Minnesota, which is Tim Walz, just because that was his political rival. Trump is unfit to be in the Oval Office, and that's just the fact. I'm not familiar. Who? He replied, adding, when someone explained to who Hartman was, he said, well, I would have done it if the governor had asked me to do that. Why the hell does the governor need to ask you? You're the president. You should offer your condolences out of respect. Now, Alex Now-Rassith, who conducted the study, said that the main takeaway from his research is that politically motivated violence is very uncommon in the United States. And any major policy shifts based on these small amounts of murders would be in contradiction to his findings. Now, the rhetoric does not match the evidence. Everyone is rightfully aghast and disturbed by the video and the murder, but a horrible individual murder is not evidence of a massive society-wide problem or trend. Now, this is what Narco-terrorism said, saying, I just don't want to blow this out of proportion to give the government an excuse to crack down in a way that would be detrimental to all of our liberties. Right, because they're already taking away freedom of speech from everybody. The Cato Institute study, which used 18 data sets and documents, found that a total of 3,599 people have been murdered in politically motivated terrorist attacks in the United States since 1975. The study categories left-wing attacks as those motivated by animal rights, environmentalism, and anti-police sentiment, just to name a few. Right-wing attacks include those motivated by sentiments such as white supremacy and anti-abortion beliefs. Did y'all hear that? Y'all hear that, right? So I want you to pay attention, because here's the thing. They're basically saying the right-wing attacks were motivated by people who basically were fighting for freedoms and liberties. Animal rights, environmentalism, and anti-police sentiment for people that have been socially or for social injustices. And then right-wing attacks motivated by sentiments such as white supremacy and anti-abortion beliefs. What does that tell us? That they're motivated by hate. That the right extremists who perpetuate attacks are usually motivated by hate. Just like Tyler Robinson, who took out Charlie Kirk. Motivated by hate. So why are they sitting here trying to blame the left? Okay, make it make sense. Now, experts do note, however, that political violence is rising, even if from a low starting point spurred by increased polarization, economic insecurity, and racial tensions. Now, the last few years have seen the storming of the U.S. Capitol by Trump supporters, to impede the certification of a presidential election. More than 9,600 recorded threats against members of Congress, a hammer-wielding assailant attack on Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband, Paul, and the attempted stabbing of New York gubernatorial candidate Lee Zeldin at a campaign rally. Just last year, Trump faced 2 attempts on his life on the campaign trail. A recent Time cover story of rising political violence noted numerous incidents just this year alone. The residence of Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, a Democrat, was set on fire by an arsonist. A gunman shot 2 Democratic Minnesota legislators and their spouses. 2 Israeli embassy staffers were shot and killed right outside of the Capitol Jewish museum in Washington, D.C. A man shouting "Free Palestine" tossed Molotov cocktails at a pro-Israel demonstration in Boulder, Colorado, injuring multiple people and even killing one. And a gunman who allegedly held anti-venom views opened fire at CDC headquarters in Atlanta. And we're not even going to talk about Luigi Mangione and the United Healthcare CEO. But Benjamin Rad, a political scientist and professor of law at the University of California, Los Angeles, says the Trump administration's characterization of a big shift in left-wing violence is not represented in the numbers. If the numbers grow from 1 to 5, that is like a 5-fold increase. So I think what Trump is saying is, yes, we do have more than we did before, but before was basically negligible. So does that represent a trend? No, we don't have enough data, Rad says. Rad says the policy changes around political violence are often based less on the quantity of the violence and more about the quality of the media storm surrounding them. Something that Rad says Trump amplifies very effectively. Now, the recent killing of Melissa Hortman and her husband and the shooting of Minnesota Senator John Hoffman, for example, received much less attention from the public and from Trump himself. Investigators said the suspect in that killing, a 57-year-old Vance Bolter, had a hit list of 45 elected officials, all of them Democrats. And you see how silent Trump was on that, the whole GOP? That amplification is, in my opinion, what makes this look bigger and the trend look more real than it actually is, Red said. It's the feeling that it stokes. It's the images, the iconography, the content that that's used to convey and to reinforce these fears. That's much more powerful than what the data actually even shows. Ooh, honey, that's a whole lot. Okay, that is crazy, isn't it? Absolutely nefarious. And Trump wants to sit here and blame everything on the left when the right, these people out here doing these attacks and being such extremists, those are Trump's people. But he doesn't want to talk about that, does he? Now let's talk about how they also are talking about taking no prisoners since Charlie Kirk's demise. They say the staunchest conservative activists and politicians are rallying behind a clear response to Charlie Kirk's killing. Do everything possible to expose and defeat what they see as the radical left, which they blame not only for motivating Kirk's assassination, but for a litany of American ills. Let me tell y'all something. Trump's pushing this narrative, him and his cabinet, because they're trying to make sure they win the midterm elections. They're trying to make sure they win the midterm elections. Trump's been pulling out all the stops, trying to get rid of voting, mail-in ballots and all that stuff. Okay, trying to get extra seats and stuff for the Republicans. Pay attention. Now, so far, much of the activism has been focused again against people who have celebrated Kirk's killing, demanding the securing their firings. Multiple members of Congress have joined activists in calling to fire professors, teachers, government officials, and moreover, their comments about Kirk's killing. But the activism done in the name of Kirk could soon extend even further into organizations and companies that conservatives blame for fostering left-wing ideology, fueling most politically aggressive tactics meant to cement GOP power. Do y'all hear this? Now, White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy, Stephen Miller, talked plainly about the strategy on the Charlie Kirk show on Monday as Vice President Vance guest hosted, saying it was a strategy backed by Kirk in his last message to Miller the day before he was shot. We'll probably talk about that on the broadcast at 6:30 or 7 this evening. Now, Miller said Kirk told him, we need to have an organized strategy to go after the left-wing organizations that are promoting violence in this country. The top Trump aides added, saying, I will write those words onto my heart and I will carry them out. He said that while blind rage is not productive, focused anger, righteous anger, directed for a just cause is important for change, pledging to uproot and dismantle these terrorist networks. What exactly are those networks? Miller talked about organized doxing campaigns and organized riots and organized cells that carry out and facilitate violence, pledging to use the full force. So y'all listening? Pledging to use the full force of the Department of Justice and Department of Homeland Security and more to destroy those networks. Now, it will happen and we will do it in Charlie's name, he said. What about those networks of extremists that are just lying in wait, waiting to commit mass shootings or even more nefarious things like Tyler Robinson did? Okay? Later, and those people are on the right for the most part, like I said. Now, later in the show, Vance got more specific, alluding to removing the tax-free status of progressive grant-making institutions, specifically naming the Open Society Foundations, a grant-making network founded by billionaire George Soros and the Ford Foundation. Vance said the organizations funded the Nation magazine, referencing an article that misquoted Kirk. He said the article misquoted him. The article referenced Kirk saying Black women do not have brain processing power to be taken seriously. You have to go steal a white person's slot. He said in the actual quote, Kirk was referring to specific prominent Black women. Former First Lady Michelle Obama, Joy Reid, Sheila Jackson Lee, and Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, saying that he criticized a specific Supreme Court justice as an individual. He never said anything about Black women as a group, Vance said. A spokesperson for the Nation said it stands by its writer's critique of Kirk, but it added a correction to the article following Vance's critique. Say, did you know that George Soros' Open Society Foundation and the Ford Foundation, the group who funded that disgusting article justifying Charlie's death, did you know they benefited from generous tax treatment? This is what Vance said. To have a country united with people who acknowledge the political violence is unacceptable. Well, we already heard what he said last night. Now, here's where Bashar Sukhara, president of the Nation, said. He said Vance was lying and that the magazine had not gotten a dime from the Open Society Foundations or from Soros. The Ford Foundation funded a grant to the Nation in 2019, but it is not a current grantee. And a spokesperson for the foundation said political violence is un-American and a significant crisis in our society that all Americans need to join together to address. So basically, they were calling for unity. A spokesperson for the Nation added that dissent is the highest form of patriotism, and we are proud of our journalistic legacy in pursuit of a more equal and just world. But regardless of the details, the strategy is clear. Declare that organizations funding progressive causes are promoting violence and work to dismantle them. A spokesperson for the Open Society Foundation said the network had unequivocally condemned Kirk's killing, adding that we oppose all forms of violence and condemn the outrageous accusations to the contrary. Our work is entirely peaceful and lawful. It is disgraceful to use this tragedy for political ends to dangerously divide Americans and attack the First Amendment. Actions being taken against the radical left could go beyond the Trump administration into Congress and states. So Vance was sitting up here telling lies on these folk, just further trying to cause and sow seeds of division. And this is why I'm telling you that the people that are doing the dirt are not the left, it's the right. They're the ones causing division. They're the ones talking about fighting and violence, when they should use this moment to be talking about unity and people coming together. But that's the opposite of what they're doing. Please pay attention. Now, Representative Chip Roy led about 24 House Republicans, mainly House Freedom Caucus members, in calling for a select committee to investigate the money, influence, and power behind the radical left's assault on America and the rule of law in the wake of Kirk's death. Now, this letter noted the Southern Poverty Law Center, which keeps a hate map of extremist groups, earlier this year had singled out Turning Point USA. That's the organization that Charlie Kirk co-founded. Okay? So they had singled them out on their hate map. Please pay attention. Now, the LPC said in response, we must have meaningful national conversation about violence and polarization in America. Blaming organizations that monitor extremism distracts from the urgent work of addressing the conditions that allow hates and violence to grow. That was their response to that. Now, while GOP leadership may not create that select committee with full subpoena authority, it is certainly possible that already established panels launch congressional investigations into the radical left, they say. Some Republican state attorney generals have also been stepping up aggressive actions against the left in the wake of Kirk's death. Indiana Attorney General Todd Rokita created an online portal for members of the public to share comments from educators or school administrators who celebrate or rationalize the assassination of Charlie Kirk, saying that they must be held accountable. While the Attorney General's office is posting vetted examples of submitted complaints on the portal, the office said it is not intended to trigger legal action. South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson also supported the termination of one employee at Clemson University, which had initially declined to take action by citing free speech and employment laws in South Carolina, by saying in a letter Monday that he would not prosecute the university for terminating the employees. 2 more Clemson faculty members have been removed from their teaching duties pending investigation. Republican operatives and staffers I've talked to have also repeatedly mentioned possible investigation into Discord, the instant messages and gaming platform on which Kirk's accused shooter was active, and Reddit, which hosts anonymous discussion forums. Now, the feeling of righteous indignation is fueling political tactics that go beyond explicitly combating alleged extremism. It's also fueling calls to be as aggressive as possible in mid-decade redistricting battles aimed at padding and shoring up GOP majority in the House. So with that all being said, Politico's Adam Wren reported over the weekend about that pitch being explicit in Indiana at Senator Jim Banks' Hoosier Leadership for America Summit. They say they killed Charlie Kirk. The least we can do is go through a legal process and redistrict Indiana into a 9-0 map. Okay, that's what Banks told Politico's playbook. Banks told Politico's playbook. Now, that message was echoed by former Trump advisor Stephen Bannon, town hall columnist Kurt Schlichter, and Trump World GOP consultants Alex Brutzwitz and Alex DeGrassi. They say criticisms that such actions are anti-speech and against free discourse in the name of a free speech martyr are being dismissed. We will sometimes move more slowly than I want us to, but I promise you that we will explore every option to bring real unity to our country and stop those who kill their fellow Americans because they don't like what they say. This is what Vance said while hosting Charlie Kirk's show. Now, with that all being said, Vance, all that ranting and raving he was doing in that video I showed you all on yesterday, he just sounded like he was calling for more violence as far as I'm concerned. Okay, that's what it sounded like he was doing. And they were talking about they're not taking any prisoners. Okay? They're not taking any prisoners. And I want y'all to pay attention. So anyway, with that all being said, let's go to what Barack Obama had to say about all of the BS that's going on.
Oh, they know. Barack Obama drops more hints. It's becoming abundantly clear now that the Democrats are signaling that something is coming, that they are going to take a stand and not just sit by and watch things happen without doing something. Yesterday, former President Barack Obama gave a speech at the Obama Foundation Democracy Forum. Listen to this part that caught my attention. Here it is.
What happens when the other side has repeatedly and abundantly made clear they are not interested in playing by the rules? It's a problem. And when that happens, we fight for what we believe in. There are going to be times, potentially, when one side tries to stack the deck and lock in a permanent grip on power, either by actively suppressing votes or politicizing the armed forces or using the judiciary, the criminal justice system to go after opponents. And in those circumstances, pluralism does not call for us to just stand back and say, well, I'm not sure that's okay. In those circumstances, a line has been crossed, and we have to stand firm and speak out and organize and mobilize as forcefully as we can. But even in those circumstances, it's important to look for allies in unlikely places. And too often we assume that people on the other side have monolithic views, when in reality some of them may share our beliefs in sticking to the rules, observing norms. And that's why, when it's appropriate, there is nothing wrong with reinforcing and lifting up elected officials or voters, your neighbors, your friends, who you may not disagree with anything, but they do agree with you on that, because they may be able to exert influence on people they've got relationships with within the other party. So, none of this will be easy.
Did you notice how he would pause and make sure to be careful about what he says? He's the best at doing this, but he was very careful at what he was saying during this part of his speech. He is signaling that something is coming that's going to be significant and that is going to require all Americans to come together to stand up for what is right, for what is just, and for the truth. It's something so significant that it's going to require us to reach out to our opponents on the other side of the aisle and garner their support, which they should support. If they still stand up for right and wrong, which he's suggesting they do, then they will support what's coming. Between what Kamala has said lately, Cory Booker, Gavin Newsom, and now Barack Obama, they are trying to subtly prepare everyone for what may be coming.
Okay, so you all heard that, right? I want you all to pay attention. Now, Al B. Chill said left is just as diabolical and deceptive. They are passive aggressive with their racism, and right is hyper aggressive. Both parties don't want unity because misery is a business model. Oh, absolutely, beloved. I say it all the time that both parties have the same ultimate goal. They just have different ways of getting to reach that goal. Okay, that's all it is. Same snake, two heads, same birds, different feathers. They don't want unity. Now we heard Barack Obama or no Obama sitting there talking about fight. Now he's talking about fighting, using dog whistle words and talking about we have to mobilize. Okay, and we need to get as many allies. This is all fighting words. Are y'all paying attention? These people think they're so slick. No, they don't want to come together because they make their money and they get their jobs done by keeping us divided too. They get it done by keeping us divided. So here's the thing. They have to be divided for us to be divided. If they all get on one accord, then we would all get on one accord, and none of them want that. Because there's no money in that. There's no power in that. Okay? They're just playing a game. That's why I be telling y'all they're all just controlled opposition. They have to keep up the rules. It's just like how Big Pharma gives you medicines, prescriptions that mask the symptoms or that help you feel better about the symptoms, but not the cure. Isn't that what they're both doing, the left and the right? Isn't that what they're doing? They're just giving us something to mask the symptoms. They're not giving us the cure because the cure is unity and they know it. And you know why they're not going to give us unity? And it's funny, it's ironic because this country is literally called the United States. But yet we have always been and continue to be so divided. They do not want to unite because this country's main strategy, as I've told you numerous of times, their main strategy is one of divide and conquer. Divide and conquer. That's how they keep control over everybody. That's how they continue to dictate the narratives of our lives. That's why and how they are able to continuously take away our rights and freedoms. Because they have us divided. If we all got together, all of us here that are just regular citizens, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, whether you're black, white, Mexican, whatever, if all of the little people got together, what could the 1% global elite do to stop us? They couldn't do a darn thing. Because if everybody just stood up and said, we're not going to take it, all right, we're not going to take it. You all better start working in the best interest of us, the taxpayers, the American people, because we, the people, are sick and tired of being sick and tired. And we're sick and tired of the finger pointing and the blaming and shaming of y'all just all pointing the finger at each other and nobody getting anything done for the collective. All you're doing is greasing each other's palms behind closed doors, the GOP on that side, the left on that side, greasing the palms, and everybody's trying to figure out how they can get rich. All of these millionaires, multimillionaires in Congress, how'd y'all get all that cash? Well, we're all down here struggling to try to make ends meet and losing our rights on a regular basis. And now people are getting fired because they voiced an opinion about Charlie Kirk. Nobody got mad and said anything to Charlie Kirk when he voiced his opinions about Dr. King, George Floyd, Trayvon Martin, black women, Ketanji Brown Jackson, Michelle Obama. Since they want to be specific and act like that made it better, J.D. Vance, are you serious? Oh, he wasn't talking about all black women. He was talking about 3 particular black women. And then went on to name them Joy Reid, Michelle Obama, Ketanji Brown Jackson. As if that makes it better. Oh, it's okay. You can just talk about these 3 over here and how they really don't deserve the positions they have. They're really not that smart. You know, that made it even more insulting if you ask me, because they took 3 highly qualified black women, 3 well-known black women, and he sat there and disparaged their names and their credibility and their accolades and their education. So I'm sorry, but I see that as being just as bad as if he'd said all black women. So no matter how you try to slice it, if he was talking about just those 3 or all black women, regardless, it still hits the same. Okay, and you can't deny that, though they try. With that all being said, I'm going to be out of here. Listen, I just want to tell you all, it sounds like they want to fight. It sounds like they want to take the war to the streets. It sounds like nobody, what anybody or none of them want to do is unify. Now they got Barack out here, and please pay attention because they got Barack to come out here and say that, not Joe Biden. Are y'all paying attention? Now, did Barack come out of the woodwork and say all that because Megyn Kelly called him out? I don't think so. I think they went and said, you know what? The black people need to be involved in this. We need to get the black people reared up so they can get involved because they're sitting back quiet watching from their living rooms, watching from the couch and listening. They already told us they're not going to get in it. It's got nothing to do with them. So let's get the black folk involved. So guess what? Y'all go call Obama. Get him and Michelle out here quick and tell them they need to talk to the folk and tell them that it's time to fight and stand up for something. They don't want to be left in the dark. Where are you, Barack? Just like when it was time for election, they went and got Barack to come and talk to the black men when they didn't want to vote for Kamala. Okay, so I want y'all to pay attention, honey. They are so slick, are they not? Are they not? Timothy said, good point, Queen. Thank you, beloved. Okay, political wins said facts. Okay, Greta said, we're not falling for this ploy. Exactly. So anyway, with that all being said, listen, I love you all to life. Oh, wait a second. I almost forgot to tell you all about Trump. Hold on. We got to get into it. Because do you all know Trump had them blow up another darn boat? Yes, he did. Yes, he did. He bragged about it again. He bragged about it again, honey. Let me just show you all this. He sat up there and had them blow up another darn boat with these people in it and said those darn people were gang members with more illegal substances. Let's get into it. Trump is a hot mess. He's trying to actually turn into John Gotti. Now, here's what it says, and I'm going to show you all the video that he posted. So, U.S. President Donald Trump issued a message to Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro on Tuesday, which included an announcement that a third rug boat had been destroyed. These latest statements came as Trump, who has ordered a large amount of U.S. military assets to the Caribbean, continues to threaten the regime in Caracas. President Maduro in Venezuela says that you're getting ready to invade his country. Okay, what is your message to him? A reporter asked Trump, who was about to board a Marine One ahead of a trip to London. Okay, so let's go to this. Hold on. Let's go to the footage. Trump needs to sit down. Trump needs to sit down somewhere. Hold on. Sitting here getting them to blow up these boats rather than trying to take people into custody is dirty work. And quite frankly, diabolical if you ask me.
Narcotics in Venezuela. Narcotics in Venezuela. President Maduro in Venezuela says that you're getting ready to invade his country. What is his message to him?
Well, I would say this right away. Stop sending Tren de Aragua into the United States. Stop sending drugs into the United States. We knocked off actually 3 boats, not 2, but you saw 2. And the problem is there are very few boats out in the water. There are not a lot of boats out in the water. I can't imagine why. Not even fishing boats. There's nobody. Nobody wants to go take a fish. So it's one of those things. But I would say to him very strongly, stop sending people from your prisons into our country. They're sending their prisoners. They've done that already. So the numbers just came out. Another month with 0 people getting into our country. And these are figures, John, with people like you that would like me to do badly. Nobody has ever done on the border like I've done.
Mr. President, what will you tell President Zelensky if you meet with him in New York?
Boy, that Trump is something else, isn't he? Isn't he actually something else? But hold on. Just talking big trash. As per usual. So anyway, goes on to say that unlike the previous 2 boat attacks, however, the president did not release any videos showing the incident or say if someone was killed. We have reached out to the White House and the Pentagon for more details, and the Pentagon referred us to the White House, and we will update this story. Okay, well, here's a video of some boat. Donald Trump posted this himself. It says, this morning, hold on, I'm going to go to it so you all can see this. They said on Monday, Trump released a video showing what he said was an attack on a cartel boat that killed 3 smugglers. So here's the video. This is the vessel at a standstill in the water before being attacked. And they said they had reached out to the White House for an update or whatever, and that's when they directed them to this video I'm about to show you all. Honey, Trump is something else. He really thinks he is John Gotti. Hold on here. Here we go. All right, honey. So Trump is out there doing the work. Pay attention, honey. He's out there blowing up the smugglers. Okay. Also nefarious. Now, earlier this month, the president released a video purporting to show 11 members of the Tren de Agua cartel being killed in a strike against a suspected rug boat. So the two previously publicized boat attacks have been criticized for being extrajudicial killings ordered by the White House without congressional consent that may have violated international and maritime law. At issue is whether the military can kill rug smugglers without a trial and whether the president needs a resolution from Congress to take military action. The White House has argued that the cartel and its smugglers are narco-terrorists, threatening the U.S. with rugs, thus their deaths are justified. Now, in addition to ordering kinetic actions against cartel smugglers, Trump further laid out his case against Maduro, said in Venezuela, the criminal regime of indicated rug trafficker Nicolas Maduro leads one of the greatest and largest Coca-Cola trafficking networks in the world. And the United States will continue to seek to bring Maduro and other members of his complicit regime to justice for their crimes. Okay, the administration announced late Monday in the annual presidential determination on rug trafficking. They said, we will also target Venezuelan foreign terrorist organizations such as Tren de Agua and purge them from our country. The Venezuelan leader was indicted in a New York federal court in 2020 during the first Trump presidency. He and 14 others, including several close allies, were hit with federal charges of narco-terrorism and conspiracy with the Colombian FARC insurgent group to import Coca-Cola. The U.S. has issued a $50 million reward for his capture. The release of the document came after U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said Maduro is operating a rug cartel and that Trump is going to use the U.S. military and all the elements of American power to target cartels who are targeting America. The traffickers, he added, are a direct threat to the national security, the national interests of the United States. So though the Trump administration continues to ratchet up the rhetoric against Maduro, there has been no real movement by the growing array of U.S. military assets ordered to the region. A U.S. official on Tuesday told the War Zone that the location of ships deployed to the Caribbean remains roughly the same as it has over the past few weeks. The 3 ships of the Iwo Jima Amphibious Readiness Group and the 4,500 personnel from the 22nd Marine Expeditionary Units remain off the southern coast of Puerto Rico. Okay, so anyway, they have a whole lot going on here. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to play real quick and then we're out of here. This is like a 3.5 minute clip of what Marco Rubio had to say about the situation with Venezuela. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Excuse me, we're almost out of here.
Sir, the State Department has put out this bounty on Nicolas Maduro. The administration took out that boat of narco traffickers, I believe, last week. Are you any closer to capturing him?
Well, first of all, there's no bounty on Nicolas Maduro. What it is a reward for an indicted person. Here's what people forget. Okay, Nicolas Maduro was indicted by the Southern District of New York. A grand jury returned an indictment. They read the evidence. They saw the evidence. They returned an indictment, not just against him personally, but against a network of people in that country who use the apparatus of what they claim to be a government to conduct drug trafficking operations against the United States. So there's a reward for his capture, and it's out there, and it's available, and it was increased. That's what that's a consequence of. In addition to that,
are you not concerned, sir, that it gives the impression of advocating for some kind of regime change or pushing for that?
But the thing is, they're not. We don't. Not only do we not recognize him, 50-something countries around the world do not recognize Nicolas Maduro as the rightful president. He's not the president of Venezuela. That's a title he's given himself, and that's not just us saying it. That was, by the way, that was the policy of the Biden administration, and that was the policy of the first Trump administration, and that's the policy of 50-something countries, including multiple countries in the region, do not recognize him as the president of that country. What he is someone who's empowered himself of some of the instruments of government and are using that to operate a drug cartel from Venezuelan territory.
Okay, I'm gonna stop it right there. Y'all heard what he was saying, honey. That man is something else, okay? That man is worse than Trump from the sounds of it. Now he's just put himself in office. Be damned whether he won the election fair and square or not, honey. He just put himself in that office and said, listen, I'm the president, and who's gonna stop me? Who's gonna do something about it? Run up. Is that what he's saying? He just took over. Imagine. Can y'all imagine that? He just deemed himself president, didn't win a darn thing, just got up there and took the seat and took over power and said, yeah, I'm the president. Give a damn who y'all voted for. I'm running this country, and who's gonna stop me? This is all crazy. But guess what? Trump did the exact same thing over here, and so now Trump's trying to take him out of power because Trump wants to be the only gangster president in the world. Trump said, I don't know who he thinks he is, but I'm Don Corleone. I'm John Gotti. Okay? The leader and the head of the Gambino crime family. Are y'all listening? This is all a hot mess. Okay, so good luck, guys. Good luck, family. I hope y'all can make it through all of this shenanigans that's going to happen in the oncoming days and weeks. Okay, I hope you all are prepared for it all, because trust me, it's going down. One box says it's the resources in that country. Yeah. Yep. I absolutely believe it, beloved. Okay, Leon said, I'm scared of those demons. So One Box, thank you for your insight into the topic and your contribution to the channel, beloved. Peace, love, and blessings. Okay, I absolutely agree with you. So listen, I'm going to let you all go. I hope you enjoy the rest of this beautiful day. I will probably go live again. That's going to be a little later than 6 because it's already almost 2:30. So if I go live again tonight, it's probably going to be about 8 or 9 o'clock. Okay, if y'all are going to be up, it's probably going to be about 8 or 9 o'clock. Cushion Commentary said, can you also talk about David and the 13-year-old? David and the 13-year-old. Let me write that down. Let me tell y'all something. I might talk about it, beloved. I don't know. Here's the thing. Speaking of David, I want to tell y'all something. Y'all must not have known who David was either, because when I talked about him the other day, when they found that body in his car, and I told y'all his name, nobody even bothered to correct me, because I literally had never heard of him. And I called him D4VD. I said, who is D4VD? Because that's how they spell his name. He spells his name with a 4 instead of the A in David. D4VD. That's what I was calling the man. But then when I looked him up, I saw people were calling him David. So anyway, honey, my bad. I told y'all I'm slow. Okay, so anyway, listen, I'm out of here. Okay, so everybody enjoy the rest of this beautiful day. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. Till next time, I will talk to you all again soon. Peace.
Gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen. Why you hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like King Luther, shed blood like Kunta. You ain't helping my people, I ain't got nothing to say to ya. I want all the smoke like hookah. Talking reparations, America won't be great until they give us compensation. I'm like, I'm the hottest right now. That's See right. A bunch of lames out here trying to jock on my style. They be doing too much. I'm the queen, it's too easy. It's like they all at Popeyes, how they be talking so greasy. I just sit back and laugh while these haters get madder. So nefarious how they don't want my pockets with cheddar. I tell them they can do better. These snakes in the grass can leave a bite on your ass, cause y'all be trusting too fast. I got my foot on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threats. Running through every challenge like a relay, break no sweat. It's a cold game, so I got that blanket with me. Now that my people awaken, ain't no going to sleep. I do not play by my piece. This time I'm playing for keeps. You talking slick, but when I see you like them ends, we gon' meet. And I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen. Why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen. Why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got